You've been listening to The Inquiry. This edition was presented by me, Tanya Beckett. The producer was Matt Tolson. The researcher was Evie Yabsley. The editor, Tom Bigwood. And the technical producer, Cameron Ward.
That was The Inquiry from the BBC. I'm Saroja Coelho here on...
Good morning, Manitoba, and hello, Winnipeg. I'm Marcy Marcusa. Thank you for joining us on Information Radio. You're on 89.3 FM, 990 AM on that app and on YouTube as well if you're watching us there this morning. Thanks for joining. We're above normal today in Manitoba, north to south, east to west. It's looking really warm. To start, we're at minus 15 in Winnipeg, for example, but we're going to head to minus 4. And it is minus 31 in Churchill, so that is right on normal, pretty much for the north. Minus 7, though, down here in Morden. So across the south, certainly above normal. Mainly sunny today in Winnipeg. Brandon is going to be a mix of sun and cloud today. Your high is 0 today. You're minus 11 right now. Up in Thompson, it is mostly cloudy, minus 15, and your high is going to be minus 8. And it just gets warmer from there. Let's say good morning to the team. Corey Funk is in directing the show and covering the commute. Abby Adeyemi behind the controls, our senior tech and covering weather. And Mr. Darren Marash is directing and producing YouTube. If you're watching us this morning on the stream, please say hello. Well, you might be able to tell my tone is serious. Obviously, we're coming off of that tragedy in BC yesterday and still learning more today. Heather Wells is in with our headlines at 2 minutes to 6 o'clock. Good morning, Heather.
Good morning. Yes, it is being called one of the deadliest mass shootings in the country. 9 people dead in Tumbler Ridge, BC. BC's premier says the mass attack also claimed the life of the suspect. 2 more bodies found at a home police believe was connected to that incident. So then we will hear the latest on that story coming up on World Report at 6. In Winnipeg, a young family is shattered after their 6-month-old baby died last month in a hospital in Winnipeg. Lou, 10, says his boy Luca had a hole in his esophagus, and he argues staff at Winnipeg's Children's Hospital waited too long to transfer his little boy to surgery. That story and more coming up in our next local news at 6:30.
All right. Thank you, Heather.
Thank you.
We this morning on our program, of course, will be following what's happening at a Tumbler Ridge. We are getting some information. So Heather mentioned we're hearing from the Premier. We also have been hearing from a student in that area. So we'll have that also on the program represented. Here locally in Winnipeg, we're going to be talking about one of the challenges with flights that have been canceled. An aviation expert will be on talking about WestJet's decision to cancel direct flights out of Winnipeg to some very popular U.S. destinations like Nashville and Atlanta. So we'll look at that story as well. But right now, World Report.
On cue.
I'm Garby Bailey, in for Tom Power. After his eldest daughter was born, the musician Aquaculture started asking questions about his own roots and realized he didn't have many answers. That led him to 1783 and Nova Scotia's Black history. He's here to talk about it and his new album, 1783.
Q, this morning at 10:30 in Newfoundland, and on CBC Listen, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is World Report. Good morning. I'm Marcia Young.
As British Columbians, I know that one of the things we do best is look after each other, and I'm asking British Columbians to look after the people of Tumbler Ridge.
British Columbia Premier David Eby responds to a mass shooting at a high school. 10 people are dead, including the suspected shooter. Dozens more are injured in the small community in northeast BC. Police say a shooter killed 2 people, then opened fire inside Tumbler Ridge Secondary School. Authorities say that person then took their own life. Town Councillor Chris Norbury says the grief is overwhelming.
I know these children. You know, I've seen them grow up. I saw them at their sporting events. I saw them everywhere. And knowing that I can't see them anymore, that we won't see them anymore, that their family has to live with this incredible loss that I can't imagine.
The names and ages of the victims have not been released. Here's the CBC's Georgie Smythe with more on what we know so far.
And our principal goes throughout the halls and she's saying, people close your doors, lock down, stuff like that.
17-year-old Darian Quist was in a mechanics classroom when a shooter started opening fire in his school in Tumbler Ridge.
So we all barricaded up the doors with some iron tables.
He says he stayed on the phone to his mum until police arrived.
Our CMP got in. We're telling everyone to put their hands up, and we were all escorted out of the building. And sent to
Chris
us.
Clark from BC RCMP says they found 6 people dead inside the school.
The scene was very dramatic, and there were multiple victims that are still being cared for.
25 people were injured, some critically. One person died on their way to hospital. Then investigators found another crime scene.
We have the school, and then we have found 2 other persons deceased at a residence in Tumbler.
Police were light on details of the identity of the suspect, but earlier alerts described them as a woman in a dress with brown hair. They say details of the weapon used or motives may come in time. What's for certain now is the agony being felt by families in a quiet and peaceful BC town. Here's Premier David Eby.
Wrap the people of Tumbler Ridge, wrap these families with love. This is something that will reverberate for years to come.
The Premier adding, this is the kind of thing that happens in other places and not close to home. Georgie Smythe, CBC News, Vancouver.
Politicians across the country are reacting to the Tumbler Ridge shootings. Janice McGregor is tracking the outpouring of support from our parliamentary bureau. And Janice, what are we hearing from the Prime Minister?
Mark Carney had been expected to make a major announcement before heading to Germany to participate in the annual Munich Security Conference. Those travel plans are postponed now in the wake of these shootings. In a statement overnight, Carney said he was devastated. He extended his prayers and deepest condolences and expressed gratitude for the courage and selflessness of the first responders who risked their lives at the scene. Federal officials, the Prime Minister said, will be supporting the community as best they can. Public Safety Minister Gary Anand Sangari, who's coordinating that response, called the pain of this event unimaginable. He thanked the local RCMP for their swift action. And the minister said the violence has rocked the nation, stolen the sense of safety that students deserve when they go to school each day. The House of Commons doesn't sit on Wednesday mornings. The parties meet in their national caucuses, and as MPs arrive, I'd expect more expressions of shock at this news overnight and acts of condolence here in Ottawa as the day unfolds. The MP that represents Tumbler Ridge, Conservative Bob Zimmer, told CBC News last evening he's heading home to be with his community.
Well, as a father of 4 children, I can only imagine parents, possibly have lost their children and lost family members, and it's absolutely tragic. What can you say?
How are other leaders reacting?
Opposition leader Pierre Poilievre posting that he was devastated to hear of the murdered and injured in this senseless act of violence. He said he was offering his prayers for the entire community grieving this loss. And we've seen similar expressions of sympathy, support, solidarity offered by other MPs overnight, as well as provincial leaders, including neighbouring Premier Danielle Smith, who said she can only imagine the devastation that the community is feeling.
Thanks, Janice.
You're welcome.
The CBC's Janice McGregor in Ottawa. The United States is halting all flights to and from El Paso International Airport for special security reasons. The Federal Aviation Administration says the restrictions at the Texas airport will be in place for the next 10 days. It did not offer more explanation. The El Paso airport is next to a U.S. military airfield, and it is just over the border from the Mexican city of Juarez. It told the New York Times the restrictions were issued on short notice. Israel's Prime Minister will meet with U.S. President Donald Trump a little later today. The timing of Benjamin Netanyahu's visit is no coincidence. The U.S. and Iran are in negotiations over Iran's nuclear program, one the U.S. wants to end. As Trump weighs diplomatic and military responses, Netanyahu will press his agenda. Willie Lowry is in Washington. And Willie, where do negotiations currently sit between the U.S. and Iran?
At a standstill, representatives from both countries met last week in Oman for what both sides described as positive talks, but no breakthroughs were made. U.S. President Donald Trump's main demand is that Iran never develop a nuclear weapon. But the administration also wants Tehran to end its ballistic missile program and its support of proxies, including Hamas in Gaza, Hezbollah in Lebanon, and the Houthis in Yemen. Iran says it won't discuss its missile program. That's something that will likely be front of mind for Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu when he meets with Trump at the White House later today.
What is Netanyahu's message for Trump on Iran?
So this will be Netanyahu's 7th meeting with Trump since last January and his 6th trip to the U.S. He is expected to press Trump on keeping the talks with Iran as broad as possible, making sure that the U.S. keeps its focus not just on the country's nuclear program, but also those ballistic missiles. In June, Israel and the U.S. went after Iran's nuclear facilities, prompting a 12-day war in which Iran launched hundreds of ballistic missiles and drones at Israel. Now, the U.S. is expected to continue talks with Iran, though a date has yet to be set for the next round. Meanwhile, Trump told the news site Axios that he is mulling sending a second aircraft carrier to the region as tensions continue to mount.
Thank you, Willie.
My pleasure.
The CBC's Willie Lowry in Washington. Officials say one person was detained for questioning, then released in the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie. She's the 84-year-old mother of American television anchor Savannah Guthrie. Sheriff's deputies in Arizona detained someone last night during a traffic stop south of Tucson. This delivery driver spoke to local media. He says he was the person who was questioned.
I hope they get the suspect, because I'm not it.
Did you have any idea
No.
what this was about?
No.
David, do you know who Nancy Guthrie is?
No. That's the problem. No, I don't know anything.
Investigators also searched a property. Nancy Guthrie was reported missing by her family on February 1st. The small Nunavut community of Akviat will host Canada's first Inuit-led university. CBC News has learned the hamlet was chosen from a list of more than 50 locations. As Olivia Stefanovich reports, the new university could change lives across the Inuit homeland.
It kind of lost for words right now. But
it's been a hard secret for Akviat Mayor Joe Savikateg Jr. to keep. His small Nunavut community will host the main campus of the new Inuit Nunangat University, giving young people the option of pursuing their post-secondary university education within their homeland.
It will make a whole lot of difference, in my opinion, in our opinion, because currently people move far away from home to go to southern Canada.
The board of directors for the Inuit Teparik Kanatami, the national organization representing Inuit, chose Akviat in part because of the community's alignment with the university's vision for a culturally rich environment. Most people in the hamlet of about 3,000 people speak Inuktitut.
We want to build successful human beings.
ITK President Natan Obed says the focus of the university will not only be on academics, but the development of students overall.
We want to produce people who not only know who they are and have a firm grounding in their culture and language, but also how they can help.
An event announcing Akviat as the main campus will be made at Rideau Hall later today. Governor General Mary Simon, who is Inuk, has long advocated for an Inuit-led university, and now it's about to become a reality. Olivia Stefanovich, CBC News, Ottawa.
That is the latest national and international news from World Report. I'm Marcia Young.
Good morning, Manitoba. I'm Marcy Marcusa. This is Information Radio. We're live in downtown Winnipeg, and we're in our CBC studios. You're on 89.3 FM, 990 AM on that app and YouTube. Well, this hour in the show, we will have the latest on BC as it develops, so you can stay tuned from us. You won't be far away from that national story. In addition, speaking of national news, this week the Canadian Medical Association Journal published a list of recommendations about how to make operating rooms in this country more environmentally sustainable. We're going to hear more about what they are suggesting in this half hour. Plus, is Cuba on the brink of collapse? Yesterday on the show, we were talking to some Winnipeggers who are waiting to be returned to Canada as travelers are suggested to come back. Flights are being canceled. But the U.S. blocking all oil shipments to Cuba means wide-scale power outages and a potentially spiraling humanitarian crisis. So we're going to get the latest on that front this hour when it comes to Cuba. Stay tuned. Plus Olympic report at 25 past the hour. Right now, let's go to Heather Wells for more on these stories that we're all talking about. Good morning.
Good morning. Well, a young family says they have lost faith in the system after their 6-month-old baby died last month in a Winnipeg hospital. Lou Ten says his boy Luca had a hole in his esophagus. He argues staff at Winnipeg's Children's Hospital waited too long to transfer Luca to surgery. A Manitoba musician now living in Nashville is lamenting the loss of WestJet's direct flights from Winnipeg. Songwriter Leanne Pearson visits Winnipeg as often as she can. Her family also visits her using the airline's nonstop service to Nashville. WestJet is also suspending direct service between Winnipeg and Atlanta, the airline saying it's because fewer people are traveling to the U.S. We'll hear more on those stories as well as the latest from that mass shooting in Tumbler Ridge, BC, coming up at 6:30.
All right. Thank you, Heather.
Thank you.
Yeah, we have some comments from the BC Premier coming up as well in the news, and then we'll hear more with an interview with a student that has been reported upon. Let's get to what's happening briefly in our weather here. It sure is above normal still, Abby, today.
Yeah, still above normal. Though the north is still locked in the deep freeze this morning, we're seeing wind chill in the valleys of -43 around Churchill and surrounding regions. Well, down south, it's more about the mild conditions. Lots of sunshine in the forecast. Most of the regions starting in the teens, low teens this morning. Winnipeg around -15. We'll hover there till we get to a high of 4 degrees later. Some regions down south might even get to 0 today. But for Winnipeg right now, we are at -15.
All right. Thanks, Abby.
Thank you.
Corey, what's up in the commute? Good morning.
Good morning. Quiet commute so far. Haven't heard of any major issues yet. But if you do see something going on, if you're walking, biking, driving, you can give me a call. That number 204-788-3093.
Well, you might not think of an operating room when it comes to environmental impact, but healthcare is responsible for about 4.6% of Canada's total greenhouse gas emissions and 200,000 tons of other pollutants. So now operating rooms are looking at this. A team of physicians and other experts have put together a list of recommendations for how to make ORs more environmentally sustainable. The new updated guideline was published in the Canadian Medical Association Journal this week. Dr. Sarah Ward is an orthopedic surgeon at St. Michael's Hospital and an assistant professor at the University of Toronto's Temerty Faculty of Medicine. She is also a senior author of this new guideline, and we've reached her in Toronto. She's here via Zoom. Hi there.
Good morning.
So it's interesting. I mentioned this stat, but can you elaborate on how operating rooms contribute to the problem?
For sure. Yeah, there's a few main ways. So one is direct emissions of things like anesthetic gases that are used to put people to sleep for their procedures. There's also a lot of energy use. There's electricity used to power all the equipment that we use, heating and cooling of the rooms. That's quite intensive. The next big category is all of the waste that we generate when we're doing procedures. So as you mentioned, I'm an orthopedic surgeon. I do hip and knee replacements mostly. For example, when I do a single knee replacement, I produce about the same amount of garbage from that single procedure as a typical family of 4 would over an entire week. So that's a lot of garbage. And then finally, just the supply chain, all the things that we use. Some of the stuff that we use just has an intrinsically higher impact on the environment based on where and how it's produced.
So how do you get around it? Because I'm thinking to myself, obviously, if something's bleeding, you're going to be patting it and throwing something away. What are some examples of the recommendations here?
For sure. So, I mean, one of our main goals with this was to make sure that all of our recommendations, I mean, the first thing that we care about is patient outcomes and patient care, right? So none of this stuff is to compromise on that, but there are a lot of things that we can still do where we might have two options that are equivalent and one of them is better for the environment, then that's the thing that you should choose. A lot of times for routine operations, for example, we open a lot of stuff, a lot of disposable items, a lot of equipment, and a large proportion of that often will go unused. And if it's a disposable item, once it's been opened in a sterile environment, it just goes straight to the trash and then landfill. So we can just not open things that we don't know we're going to use and then open them only if needed. That's a very simple way. Choosing, the less impactful anesthetic gas, for example, choosing to use reusable items rather than single-use items when comparable ones exist and they're just as good for the patients. So there's lots of things that we can do, but obviously obviously in an emergency, we're going to use whatever we need to keep a patient safe and to make sure that they have the best outcome.
It's interesting because a few of us would work in an OR and understand all of these things. So what might some of the roadblocks be to making an OR more green?
I think there's similar roadblocks too in the rest of our life, right? Change is difficult. A lot of people can relate probably just on things that they're trying to do around their own home to recycle more or to reduce their impact. And it's similar challenges for us, but it's a little bit more complex sometimes in a large complex system. I think one of the things we have going for us is that usually opening less stuff and producing less waste and garbage is actually also cheaper and better for the system that way. And that's a good side benefit that we're hoping to capitalize on and spur some of these changes.
You mentioned, when you're putting someone to sleep, the anesthetic used and the off-gassing from that. Is there an alternative to that?
So there are alternatives. There are some types of anesthetic where you don't use any of the gases. I'm not an anesthesiologist, so I'll let some of my anesthesiology colleagues speak more to the details of it. But there are also different options of which gases they can use. And so, the anesthesiologists on our group are urging their colleagues to use the gases that are less impactful to the environment because they're good options that are clinically equivalent and then just have much less of an impact on the environment.
Why did you look at this in the first place?
So a couple of reasons. So the big one is really climate change and global warming is probably the biggest single threat to human health at the moment. So any of us working in this space, this is spurring us to want to take action in this area. And then also there's a need, I think, in Canada to have a one repository of good evidence on this topic for people who are working in the operating room and want to make changes. So we're hoping that they'll be able to refer to our guideline and have some pretty clear guidance on what the current state of the evidence is for these changes. And this will help them, make the argument to make changes in their own practices and at their own organizations.
And from your perspective, how will you measure, going forward if the new guidelines a success?
I think how we'll measure our own success. We want to have more people aware of the problem. So some people just have never really thought of healthcare in this way, as you mentioned, and so more awareness in general. People who haven't worked in this space and just understanding what the problem is. More clinicians and organizations across the country making changes, and hopefully using this document as I mentioned to support that work.
All right, Doctor. Thank you very much for your time this morning.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Yeah, you too. That is Dr. Sarah Ward, orthopedic surgeon at St. Michael's Hospital in Toronto and an assistant professor at the University of Toronto's Temerty Faculty of Medicine and a senior author of what we're talking about, this new guideline published this week in the Canadian Medical Association Journal.
The Olympic Winter Games Milano Cortina 2026 are almost here, and it all lives on CBC and CBC Gem. From the first puck drop to the final victory. Access every Olympic moment all for free. With multiple live streams and full replays, CBC Gem puts you in control of the events you want to watch. Get ready for hockey, figure skating, curling, and much more. It all begins February 6th. Watch free on CBC and CBC Gem.
Oh, I did get ready for hockey yesterday. That game so stressful, really disappointing for the Canadian women's hockey team. If you missed it, they were shut out. It's their worst loss at the Olympics ever. They were shut out by the Americans, 5-0. So we're surely going to hear about that in 5 minutes as Olympic update comes on the airwaves here on CBC. I'm Marcy Marcusa. You're on 89.3 FM, 990 AM on that app and on YouTube. Now, on the bright side of the games, remember, it's about the achievements, getting there. Obviously, the future hope as well. They've got more games, that team, and we've got so many things to come to watch. We're going to talk to one of the excited Olympians' moms, and that is because Katie Tabin is on Team Canada for the women. Played hockey yesterday, and it's her first time at the Olympic Games. Super exciting. Heather Tabin is there. We reached her actually on the bus. She just arrived in Italy yesterday. Our associate producer sitting right beside me in our CBC Manitoba News Center was talking to her, and she's agreed to go on the air with us this morning. So we'll hear from her what it was like sitting through that game that was a disappointment, but also the excitement of just being there and moving forward and watching her daughter, a first-time Olympian. So that is coming up a little bit later right here on Information Radio. This morning, it is, of course, Wednesday morning, and we did get a call on our commuter line. So on the commuter line, Daryl said that lights are at Regent and Nairn are flashing red right now. So obviously a big intersection. Treat it as a four-way stop. Regent and Nairn are the same street, though. So I'm just reading this, and I'm thinking to myself, that doesn't make a lot of sense to me, because Regent then turns into Nairn, so maybe it's right where it changes, or I'm wrong and sleepy. But Daryl called, so it's a problem in Ticona. Treat it as a four-way stop if you're coming across it, and you know specifically where we're talking about. Okay, apparently it's correct, and it's fine, so that's just my brain doing that. So thank you, Daryl. Regent and Nairn, not too backed up yet. 788-3093. We have a new single now to get us to Olympic Report. This one actually is from Jen Grant, so we play a lot of her music on the show. This is from her forthcoming album called Queen of the Strait. This tune's called Crazy.
Every time you look at me, I don't need to make it so easy on you, baby. Every time you fall asleep, you don't need to pretend that I don't make you feel. I make you crazy. I make you crazy. When the sun is going down, it's just another day that I'm not around. When the stars come out to shine, they whisper everything to you that you're mine. I make you crazy. I make you crazy. How do you feel loading your gun? It's not how you fight for love. Every mistake's a chance that you take to show what you're made of. I don't pretend that it's gonna end. Not how I feel for you. Sun in your hair, it's not fair. I wanna be brand new. I make you crazy. I make you crazy. The bond that we made is the last piece I say. Even all that matters to me, you were the king, I am the queen. And all the time, how I tried, how I cried, still I found you were the one. You were the golden sun, and I am the light over the morning sea. When the sun is going down, it's just another day that I'm not around.
Jen Grant, Crazy. That's a track from her upcoming new album coming out called Queen of the Strait. We are coming up to time for Olympic Report in a moment. Latest local news coming up at 6:30 right after that here on CBC Manitoba. And Zach and Daryl both calling the commuter line to clear all this up. Said lights at Regent and Panet are flashing red. So treat that as a four-way stop. Not too backed up yet. 788-3093 if you have any other problems on your commute this morning. Right now, it's time for Olympic Update.
Good morning. This is your Olympic Games report. I'm Scott Regier. It is day 5 in Milano Cortina with a couple of the game's marquee events getting underway, those being men's hockey and men's curling. And there's also figure skating, where Canada has a good shot at its first medal in the sport since 2018.
152.15. Caitlin Osmond will win a medal.
That's the sound of Caitlin Osmond winning bronze in women's singles in Pyeongchang. Since then, Canadians have come up dry in this sport. That could change today when medals are awarded in the ice dance competition. Piper Gillies and Paul Poirier are 4-time World Championship medalists in that event. Among others, they'll have to hold off Britain's Lila Fear and Lewis Gibson, who sit close behind the Canadians in 4th place. That's in part because a British judge curiously scored the Canadians 6th and the British team 2nd in the opening round of the competition. The final round, the free dance, goes at 1:30 Eastern Time today. So it's been a long wait for a Canadian figure skating medal, and it's been just as long since the country reached the podium in men's hockey.
One more stop and another by Poland, and Team Canada are going to climb onto the Olympic podium.
Canada's bronze in 2018 was the country's last of any color for good reason. The NHL, concerned over things like insurance, travel costs, and commercial licensing rights, pulled its players from those games. But now they're back, with Connor McDavid and company facing Czechia in their opener tomorrow. In the meantime, it's Slovakia, Finland, and Sweden versus Italy in the first games today. Covering it all will be CBC Olympic hockey commentator Matt Cullen, who joins me now. Matt, fans have been clamoring for best-on-best hockey for a long while now. What are you expecting?
This, Scott, has to be one of the most anticipated moments for a hockey fan in those 12 years. Calls have been growing year over year to have a best-on-best tournament, and we got a small taste of it, an appetizer, we can call it, at the Four Nations face-off, which, as you remember, Canada won in overtime on a Connor McDavid goal against the United States. It's a 12-team tournament. Canada and the USA certainly are the favorites, but if you look at the Czechs, the Swedes, the Finns, they're also right there. But the big takeaway is that the best players in the men's game are back at the Olympics, and it's a long time coming.
Thanks so much, Matt.
Thank you.
CBC Olympic hockey commentator Matt Cullen.
Go to the start. Right.
Men's speed skating gets underway today in Milano, and the guy everyone in this sport is talking about is a 21-year-old from Wisconsin named Jordan Stolz. He races in the 1,000 meters today and is favored in a few more because no one's beaten him all year. CBC host and speed skating analyst Anastasia Busis joins me now. And Anastasia, what comes to mind when I say Jordan Stolz?
Perhaps the greatest that there ever has been. And I know that's a big statement, Scott, because that really, that title is owned by Eric Heiden, who won 5 gold medals in 1980. But he is 20 years ahead of the time. Everyone is studying this kid like a textbook because his technique is just clinical. And I really think, we saw brilliance from a young gun in Summer McIntosh. I think that a young gun by the name of Jordan Stolz is going to do similar things. I think regardless of where he is, if he's on the podium, if he's off the podium, his name will be in the headline. He is that good.
I think of Summer McIntosh in the pool, and I think about her physiology. She's built to succeed at the highest possible level. For people that don't know about Jordan Stolz, is it just about the anatomy, or is it mentally, or what is the key to his success?
He's got sprinter, absolute fast twitch muscles, and yet he also, if needed, can skate a 10,000 meter. So physiologically, he's very, very gifted. Technically, he is essentially perfect, and mentally, he has never cracked under the pressure.
Wow. Mm-hmm. The next Eric Heiden, maybe.
I think he certainly can do it, and he is aware of those comparisons. And he's not backing down from that.
We shall see. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Scott.
CBC host and speed skating analyst Anastasia Busis. There's also men's curling to look forward to today. Canada's Brad Jacobs will face Germany in his opening match, which goes at 1:05 Eastern Time. That is your Olympic Winter Games report this hour. I'm Scott Reger.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg at 6:30. It's minus 15, a little bit of a chill in the air, but it is going to be sunny and mild today, a high of minus 4. We begin with the horrific events in northeast BC.
People of Tumbler Ridge remain in a state of crisis following one of the worst mass shootings in our province's and country's history.
BC Public Safety Minister Nina Krieger responding to yesterday's mass shooting at a secondary school in the BC community of Tumbler Ridge. Police say 10 people are dead, including the shooter. Dozens more are injured. Georgie Smythe reports.
About lunchtime, Tumbler Ridge RCMP responded to reports of an active shooter at a secondary school in the community. Chris Clark from BC RCMP says they found 6 people dead inside.
Yeah, multiple injuries and multiple deceased were inside the school as officers progressed through the scene, locating them and triaging those events.
Police wouldn't say how many were children or adults, but said one victim who was being transported to hospital died en route. They said they found another 2 people dead at a different location. The shooter, who police had described in emergency alerts as a woman in a dress with brown hair, was found dead in the school with what looks like a self-inflicted injury.
We're still trying to determine a lot about the shooter at this stage right now. We believe we've been able to identify the shooter, but for privacy reasons and obviously for the conduct of the investigation, we're not releasing that information.
The community will receive additional supports from around the province as it comes to terms with what's happened. Georgie Smythe, CBC News, Vancouver.
You can hear the latest on this developing story coming up on World Report at 7. A young family is shattered after their 6-month-old baby died last month in a Winnipeg hospital. Lou Ten says his boy, Luca, had a hole in his esophagus. He argues staff at Winnipeg's Children's Hospital waited too long to transfer Luca to surgery. The little boy's father says he has lost faith in the healthcare system.
I used to trust them like everything. But right now in my mind, I think they killed Luca. It's not some certain person. It's the whole system, the hospital.
Ten says he was told by health officials Luca received appropriate care in the ER overnight. He was told a tear in the esophagus usually heals on its own. However, he argues hospital staff should have noticed Luca's deteriorating health earlier. Winnipeg's mayor is confident a proposed new bylaw to ban protests in some locations can stand the test of a charter challenge. The city of Winnipeg wants to prohibit protests within 100 meters of schools, hospitals, libraries, community centers, and places of worship. Scott Gillingham says such measures are needed in today's world.
Our legal team looked at this very carefully when bringing forward this bylaw, and certainly, the Charter of Rights and Freedoms was absolutely, considered and consulted and looked at in the establishment of this bylaw.
Gillingham says Ottawa and the province are also looking at ways to prevent people from feeling intimidated. The mayor's inner circle will discuss the proposal at its meeting next week. Winnipeg is losing some direct flights to U.S. destinations. WestJet is suspending service to Nashville and Atlanta amid a decline in trans-border travel. The airline announced direct flights to Atlanta in 2023 and Nashville in 2024. The change comes amid ongoing economic and political tensions between Canada and the U.S. Carolee Falloon is the Director of Communications at Winnipeg's Richardson International. She says they are continuing to see a reduction in people traveling south of the border.
We're working really closely with our airline partners to navigate the economic conditions. And we are seeing that airlines are investing in other routes, not to the U.S., that passengers are very interested in.
Falloon points to flights from Winnipeg to Costa Rica and the addition of a direct flight from Winnipeg to Iceland starting in July. Patients at Bethesda Regional Health Centre in Steinbach are about to receive care in a brand new space. The 2-story, 59,000 square foot addition officially opens in March. Kyle McNair of the Southern Regional Health Authority says it will improve health care for people in Steinbach.
We would have to think very carefully about how further expansion would be occurring. But this inpatient expansion is very significant, so we certainly expect that it'll meet our needs for quite a few more years now.
The new space includes new medicine and palliative care beds, a lab, and 3 new operating theaters. A Manitoba Olympian will see some familiar faces cheering him on when he hits the ice in Italy this week. Winnipeg's Seth Jarvis found out a few days ago he will be suiting up for the Canadian men's hockey team. The Carolina Hurricanes center was chosen to replace injured forward Braden Point. That left some of Jarvis's closest friends scrambling to change their travel plans. Instead of visiting him in Raleigh, North Carolina over the Olympic break, they're now jetting off to Milan to watch him play. Sloan Tremblay says it is a dream come true to be going to the Olympics.
Seeing Seth wear Canada gear again would be really cool for all of us, but I think we're all excited to see a bunch of different events too.
And Tremblay says he and his friends are also grateful to Air Canada for stepping up to help them get to the games. You can find the latest news updated throughout your day at cbc.ca/Manitoba.
And Heather, apparently a really great group of guys. Like Corey had this experience with his friends on Friday through CBC.
Yeah,
what happened?
It was so fun. Well, so I remember when I heard the news that Seth Jarvis was making it. So I'm like, hey, I think his friends went down to Boston last year to cheer him on in the Four Nations face-off.
Yeah.
So I was like, so we had his number. I called up his friend Brian Hanna. I was like, yo, Brian, I just saw your buddies now going to Milan. You guys got to go too? Like, you're really supportive. He's like, I'm at Seth's house right now in Carolina.
And what were they doing there?
They were just going down to visit, just like they were expecting
Helping
just to
him
have
pack?
they were hoping to have just like a chill week together because they didn't think he was going to the Olympics. And then now he's like, oh, I'm helping him pack now because he's about to head to Milan. And then I was like, then we got him on the air in the studio, and then we were like, can Seth talk? And then Seth came on. It was great. And
Oh,
we
that's
just walked
fun.
on over, and then him and Seth had a good little chat.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah, it's cool. They're really really good buddies.
And now the development in the story that Heather just reported, of course, that
Now
they're
they're
heading
going.
over there.
It's awesome. Yeah.
I love that. It's important to have your friends there, right? They're the ones that have probably played the game with you while you're growing up in the streets of Winnipeg.
It'd be pretty cool to like look up and see them after you score a goal or something like that. Pretty awesome.
All right, so go Team Manitoba, go. We will Team Canada, but we are Manitobans. We will follow through as well. Maybe we can catch those guys before they're getting on the plane.
Yeah, it'd be fun.
Since you're here, do you want to talk about the commute today?
Yes, the only issue we've heard of so far is at the intersection of Region and Panet, or Nairn and Panet, right where Nairn becomes Region, essentially. Those lights are flashing red this morning, so treat that as a four-way stop. As you can imagine, might be some backups as traffic starts to build throughout the morning. Heard from both Zach and Daryl about that. Other than that, though, haven't heard of any major issues, but you can give me a call if you see anything else. 204-788-3093.
All right, thanks, Corey.
Thank you.
Well, in the south, at least, Abby, we have another nice day here.
Another nice day, I'll tell you. The province waking up to mild conditions in the southern part of the province. However, if you travel north towards Churchill, it's a different story. We have bitter frostbite conditions as you travel further north. More like a quiet weather pattern settles over the province today. Winnipeg and the Red River Valley region, we're looking at temperatures hovering around -15, -16 at this time. Clear skies, we have morning temperatures just going to hover around that range between -14 and -16 all morning before we get to a sunny high of -4 under just some light southerly winds later in the afternoon. Expect some cloudy conditions to follow into the evening period, and then we are in for a beautiful Thursday where we get to a high of 0. Similar conditions we're seeing in the Pamdin Valley region at this time. We're looking at -7 around Morden at this time. Later looks like the cold spot, the warm spots in the province. We're tracking -5 in that part of the province. Would see highs near 0 for that region of the south. For the Parkland region, we're looking at -16 near Dauphin at this time. Cloudy conditions. You warm to 0 under a mix of sun and clouds. Later today, Gimley's at -20 and clear. A sunny afternoon for you. You warm up to -5 with light southerly winds moving in later. And then we track it into the northern part of the province. -13s to -16s around the Power Flimflam. That's what we're tracking. Cloudy conditions. You warm up to -5. Thompson towards Nelson House. We're looking at -15 at this time. Mostly cloudy conditions. There's a slim chance of flurries in the forecast. You warm to -8. Tululu Lake is around -17, warming up to -9. The wind chill values around -33 this morning brings a risk of frostbite. And then we track it into Churchill where it's frigid -30. We're seeing ice crystals there. Highs would struggle to get to -12. However, you need to watch out for frostbite in a minute because the wind chill feels like -43 in the Churchill region.
Happy polar bears.
So it's more like that divide. Down south is mild and warm, lots of sunshine, while up north you just the frigid grip is really holding onto Churchill and the York region this morning. So take it easy, take care of yourself out there. Winnipeg, we're at -15 at this time. We get to -4 later, and we see 0 tomorrow.
All right. Sounds kind of normal, except we'll enjoy the warmth here south.
I'll
Normal
take
for the
it.
north. All right. Thank you, Abby.
Thank you.
Phil DeMont joins us now on CBC's Information Radio with our business news today. Good morning, Phil.
Yeah, Abby has that problem all weather broadcasters have, which is people want to hear from them, and then when they hear from them, they go, ah.
For sure. Yeah, the curse of the weather forecaster. You want to talk about Canada and the U.S., both now falling in the latest measure of government corruption. Is this about taking bribes or broader issues?
Yeah, it's about broader issues. This comes from the well-considered organization Transparency International. This week, the group published its latest rankings of governments and corruption. Things aren't going in the right direction. Canada, now 16th on the list. At least we were at the same spot we were last year, but 7 slots worse than we were in 2012. So this is a 2025 list as opposed to 2026 list. Here, Canada suffers from Ottawa's lack of vigor fighting government money laundering, but also the recent scandal in Toronto around police corruption hasn't helped the perception of public officials in this country, but at least we're not the U.S. That country now is 29th on the transparency list. It's the worst reading in the index's history. Back in 2015, it was 16th. Here, Donald Trump's move to pause investigations into corporate foreign bribery and curtail enforcement of a foreign agent registry has hurt Washington's standing. But to be fair, many democracies have seen their ranking fall in the latest numbers. UK, for example, posted its lowest score on record last year. Note, though, the index really examines perceptions of corruption in the public service. Things like mega donors, how much influence they have, and tapping too many of your buddies for senior jobs in administration, that kind of stuff. Consequently, countries like Switzerland can score high in the index because their public servant's pretty good. Even though there's questions, though, about companies hiding ill-gotten gains in their banks, they don't look at companies in this case, this index, they look at governments.
Let's go to another story. Retail sales in the United States were flat in December. That was unexpected. How does it fit with today's release of American jobs figures then?
It will be really interesting. U.S. retail sales posted 0 as the increase. In December, analysts were expecting a gain of almost 0.5%. When you drop out cars, Marcy, the picture worsens. So it was a negative number, 0.1%, but the arrow in the wrong direction. Here's why it's a problem. November saw retailers in the U.S. gain about 0.6%, and that's a good number. So economists were thinking we'd see more of the same in the main Christmas shopping month, December. Got a negative or a 0 number instead. And the question is the December figures a one-day blip or a sign that the weakening U.S. job market, because it has been, is taking over the American economy? That's where today's job numbers come out. The release of December figures for the U.S. were delayed because of the recent partial shutdown in Washington, but expectations are already low. Only about 55,000 new jobs to be created, and that's a low number in the U.S. If that figure drops even more, so 30,000, watch for a lot of hand-wringing on Wall Street and in Washington, because maybe the American economy isn't booming after all.
And speaking of Americans, Donald Trump recently threatened to decertify Bombardier's plans in the U.S. and to slap new tariffs on our airplane exports. Now, the problem is our approval of the Gulfstream jet in this country, right? So what's the latest?
Yeah, it appears that the issue is close to a resolution. The head of the FAA in the U.S. speaking Tuesday said he believes Ottawa is close to certifying the Gulfstream to fly in Canada. The problem has been Transport Canada holding up its stamp of approval of the latest Gulfstream jet. They do it down, I think, in Savannah, Georgia. Both the U.S. and the EU had already given I think it's a 700, 800, a qualified okay to start flying. Canada hadn't. It was this delay that had the U.S. president talking about threatened retaliation against Canada's aerospace industry. Now, the FAA's Brian Bedford told reporters, looks like Canada's government's going to give the nod to the U.S. jet. The transport minister up here, Stephen McKinnon, said something similar last week. He thought the issue had been resolved. To be honest, it looks much more like a bureaucratic issue than any type of a political issue. The discussion was around whether the Gulfstream the Gulfstream fuel gets thick at ultra-high altitudes, whether it's really cold. That was a debate. So they got a qualified okay from the U.S. and the EU. It looks like it's going to get something similar from Canada.
All right, Phil, thank you.
Thanks, Marcy.
That is Phil DeMont with our business news for Crystal Lee Ramlichan today. We have an issue at Panet and Region out in Transcona, a problem there. So if lights are flashing red, take it easy if you're going through. There were early backups, 788-3093 if you want to update that information or anything else on your commute here through Winnipeg or anywhere in the province. In the province right now, minus 15 in Winnipeg, minus 11 in Brandon, and minus 15 in Thompson. Well, a lot of us have our minds not on Manitoba, but on the province of BC this morning, where Canada is now confronting one of its deadliest shootings in decades after that mass shooting in BC's northeast. Stories are being shared now in the aftermath of what happened in Tumbler Ridge, BC. This morning, as you've been hearing on the news, we do know that 10 people are dead, dozens of others injured after a mass shooting there. The only suspect is included in the dead from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. 6 victims and the suspect found at the local high school, Tumbler Ridge Secondary School, and there is a secondary scene where 2 other people were found dead. CBC Radio West host Sarah Penton, who worked here in Manitoba for a long time, you might recall, spoke to Darian Quist, who's in grade 12 there.
For a while, I didn't think anything was going on. I thought it was just like maybe a secure and hold. But once everything started circulating, we kind of realized that something was wrong. We got tables and barricaded the doors. And I believe we sat in there for about 2 hours, 30 minutes until members of the RCMP and I believe SWAT had come through the door and escorted us all out of the high school.
And when it was happening, did you hear anything from the other side of the door?
No, I did not. We were what I believe is most of it took place up in the upstairs section of the high school, and we're on the far left end away from that, which is on the far right end. Okay. So if anything had occurred, I did not hear anything.
There was nothing. And so what was it like in the classroom that whole time?
It was definitely tense. I think we were all very nervous, so we tried to keep things light and just try and keep each other motivated and not fall into grief. But once people sent me some photos, it definitely set in what was actually happening.
Darian Quist speaking with CBC Radio West host Sarah Penton. He's in grade 12 at Tumbler Ridge Secondary School. Police in BC, if you are just waking this morning, do believe they've identified the shooter. They say they will, quote, struggle to ever determine a motive for what's become, as I said, one of the deadliest school shootings in our Canadian history. Early alerts described the shooter as a woman in a dress with brown hair. British Columbia Premier David Eby spoke as well overnight.
Right now, information is very limited as police do their work, and the RCMP has asked for patience as they work through methodically to ensure that they are supporting families and getting to the bottom of what happened today. I'd like to take this opportunity to ask British Columbians, to ask all Canadians to wrap the people of Tumbler Ridge, wrap these families with love. Not just tonight, but tomorrow and into the future. This is something that will reverberate for years to come. As British Columbians, I know that one of the things we do best is look after each other, and I'm asking British Columbians to look after the people of Tumbler Ridge tonight. For our government's role, we'll make sure that the resources are there for the community.
So that is BC Premier David Eby. The Prime Minister sending out a quote. In part, it reads, quote, "I'm devastated by today's horrific shootings in Tumbler Ridge, BC. Prayers and deepest condolences with the families and friends who've lost loved ones to these horrific acts of violence." He will change his plans today because of the shooting to respond to the community. Also changing, the current this morning was to be live from Mexico. It's actually going to be live out of Toronto this morning, so we'll have a very different show following ours and likely covering what has been going on and the very latest from Tumbler Ridge. And in Tumbler Ridge today, in that community, there will be no school, as you can imagine, as the families stay close with their loved ones. And so we'll have the latest on the news of this as it continues to develop today at First Light. Remember, BC, of course, 2 hours before us. But anything new that we have to report will be coming up on World Report at 7. It's 11 minutes to.
Local news is in decline across Canada, and this is bad news for all of us. With less local news, noise, rumors, and misinformation fill the void, and it gets harder to separate truth from fiction. That's why CBC News is putting more journalists in more places across Canada, reporting on the ground from where you live, telling the stories that matter to all of us. Because local news is big news. Choose news, not noise. CBC News.
It is Wednesday morning, February 11th. Still ahead on the show, we're going to be talking about transit. A local advocate here in Winnipeg says that transit users should have more say in how Winnipeg buses are run and managed. He's going to tell us why he is looking to cities like Toronto for a solution. And he says one of those solutions could be having a riders' union to restore trust and accountability here in our transit system. So they do have a riders' union in Toronto. We, of course, have a lot of advocacy groups in Winnipeg. So we'll ask our guest after 7 what difference an actual formal union for riders would make. Right now, though, let's talk about a different form of travel. Daily life in Cuba is fast spiraling into a humanitarian crisis. The U.S. blockade on oil shipments from Venezuela have led to wide-scale all-day electricity shortages on the island. That, in addition to a crumbling economy with high inflation, shelves at grocery stores and pharmacies are empty right now. And the transportation piece from at least Canada is that Canadian airlines are canceling flights to the country. But the federal government is warning tourists to be cautious about visiting Cuba overall now. Jean-Francois Mayer is with us to look at the humanitarian piece of this there. He's an associate professor of political science over at Concordia University. Good morning.
Good morning, Marcy.
You know, we talked to a Canadian, a Winnipegger that was in Cuba yesterday who was awaiting coming back to Canada and said, you know, they were feeling this like, you know, fine in the resort with electricity and food. And then they venture out to the grocery store and said, shelves are bare. Feeling terrible, obviously, for Cubans. What can you tell us about the living conditions on the ground for people there?
So the living conditions are absolutely precarious. They're extremely difficult. The UN and various international agencies have called it essentially a humanitarian crisis in the making. Cuba, as you very well summarized, is the subject right now of an oil embargo. And an oil embargo for Cuba means also a shortage in power because Cuba's electricity is supplied by thermal power plants. And so no oil means no electricity. No oil and electricity also means no public transportation, very limited private transportation. And as you've mentioned, there are now very tangible shortages of medical drugs, of basic foodstuff and basic necessities. So the situation is indeed aptly described as being a humanitarian crisis in the making.
So walk us through the politics of this in the context that led us to this situation.
So the crisis is a result of two particular actions. So the first one was the implementation of an economic blockade by the U.S. government, but way back in 1962 as a result of what was called the Cuban Revolution in Cuba. So the implementation of a communist-inspired government. But more immediately, this crisis is the result of the U.S. Intervening militarily in Venezuela to remove President Maduro this past January 3rd. The U.S. then took control of Venezuela's oil sector and interrupted Venezuela's oil deliveries to Cuba, and Venezuela was Cuba's main source of oil. Without these oil deliveries from Venezuela, Cuba turned to its secondary supplier, which is Mexico. But Mexico, after sending one tanker kind of mid-January, has stopped its shipments as well as a result of the U.S. administration's pressures. The U.S. government has indicated very clearly that any country that would challenge its economic bloc, especially as concerns oil on Cuba, would be the subject of very strong additional tariffs.
What has happened then to tourism on to the island overall? We've been looking at the flights from Canada, but what can you tell us overall now?
So the touristic industry in Cuba up until now was relatively shielded from this crisis because the tourist industry is one of the main sources of income of the island and of the Cuban state. So it had been relatively isolated from those pressures. These touristic resorts have their own power generators. They have privileged access to food, etc. But it seems that it is now suffering as well. There are reports that tourists are being concentrated in just a few hotels in the hopes of maximizing the use of the remaining fuel in Cuba, and that there would be disruptions to the kind of food supply as well So it appears that the touristic industry is also now clearly affected, and people already, tourists or potential tourists, have started thinking twice about going to Cuba, and the industry has suffered already on the island.
How's the Cuban government responding to this?
So it has two kind of main types of answers. So domestically, the Cuban government is very clearly saying to its people, well, the crisis that we're in right now, the suffering that we're experiencing as a people, as a country, is directly the result of the U.S. blockade, right? And so the hope here is to create this, what we call this rally around the flag effect, which is when a population in a context of crisis due to a foreign actor, well, the population decides to rally around its government, even though it might not like the government all that much. The Cuban government is an authoritarian one, but generally that's been documented in the past in situations of crises like these. The population might decide to kind of band together and support the government, the local government, in a kind of more extreme situation. So the hope here is this is what's going to happen. And externally, the Cuban government has manifested its willingness to engage in dialogue with the United States. And it's a dialogue that could deal with any sort of topic, provided that the dialogue would be without pressure and would be conducted with respect. So these are the conditions that the Cuban government put down. But this is also a significant shift in Cuba's traditional position when dealing with the United States as concerns the embargo.
Just last, I'm short on time here. I have maybe about under a minute left. But
Yes.
Could Canada offer to supply oil to the island? That has not happened yet, correct?
Yes, that has not happened yet. In fact, the Canadian government has been relatively kind of mute on that topic. And it is unlikely at this stage that Canada will offer oil, or even it's unlikely that it might offer humanitarian assistance. It actually hasn't said very much on this either. And this is due to the fact that Canada already has to deal with the U.S. administration's kind of changing stance on international relations, and that puts Canada itself in a difficult and precarious context.
Thank you very much, Jean-François. Appreciate it.
Thanks so much, Marcy.
That is Jean-François Mayer, an associate professor of political science over at Concordia University. More on this story coming up in 3 minutes on World Report. Also, after 7 o'clock locally, a local transit advocate says transit users should have more say in how Winnipeg buses are run and managed. He would like to see a riders' union set up here. They have them in other cities. So we're going to hear more about that, and we'll also hear more about the difference he says it could make here. And we have a really lovely story for Valentine's Day that's super fun. How well can you hype up your friends? Good enough to get them a date? One Winnipeg event is putting those skills to the test. So normally, if you're going to meet someone and see if you're going to date, it's just one-on-one. Would you bring a friend? This event asks you to do just that. Right now, to more serious matters, once again, ahead of 7, Heather Wells is in with the news.
Good morning. Well, a young family is shattered after their 6-month-old baby died last month in a Winnipeg hospital. Lou 10 says his boy, Luca, had a hole in his esophagus. He argues staff at Winnipeg's Children's Hospital waited too long to transfer his little boy to surgery. A Manitoba musician now living in Nashville is lamenting the loss of WestJet's direct flights from Winnipeg. Songwriter Leanne Pearson visits Winnipeg as often as she can. Her family also visits her using WestJet's nonstop service to Nashville. WestJet is also suspending service between Winnipeg and Atlanta. We'll hear more coming up in our next local news at 7:30.
Thank you, Heather.
Thank you.
Minus 15. It is calm in Winnipeg and clear, and will be above normal at a high of minus 4 today in the city. Much colder up north. Way up north, Churchill's minus 31, for example. That's your cold spot. In traffic, out in Transcona, lights still flashing red at Nairn and Panet. We've had a few calls about that. 788-3093 if you have any other updates. The latest from Tumbler Ridge, BC, and that horrific shooting that happened there is coming up next on World Report with everything we know to this hour.
Have you visited CBC's Being Black in Canada website? It's an online platform to explore the stories and experiences of Black Canadians across the country. A space for news, documentaries, arts and culture, Black achievement in sports, and so much more. celebrating a uniquely Canadian perspective on Black issues with the cultural moments that matter to Black Canadians. Visit cbc.ca/beingblack-in-Canada.
This is World Report. Good morning. I'm Marcia Young. The community of Tumbler Ridge, BC is grieving. Police say someone opened fire at the local high school. They also shot 2 other people in a nearby home. In total, 10 people are dead, including the suspected shooter. Dozens more are injured. George Rowe is a local pastor who's been meeting grieving families at the community center.
When I walked in, the sight of what I saw was devastating. Many parents just waiting for the news on whether their child had survived the shooting or not.
Police have not yet released the names and ages of those who died. They say the suspect took their own life. The CBC's Caroline Bargut is in Tumbler Ridge. And Caroline, describe what you are seeing.
Well, it's still very early here, but there is definitely still a scene in front of the local high school, the Tumbler Ridge Secondary School. I could see a police car in the distance guarding the scene. We know that RCMP major crimes officers will be coming here to do this investigation. What we know so far about what happened is that there was an active shooter in the secondary school. Police said yesterday that the officers who were in this community arrived on scene with about 2 minutes. When they got here, they found a number of people who were injured as well as people who were deceased. 2 people were airlifted to hospital. They were in critical condition. A 3rd person died on the route. Police thought at first there could potentially be another suspect, but later said they don't believe that anyone else is involved. At this point, there's a lot more that we don't know than we do know. Police say that they have been able to identify the shooters, but they have not released that information to the public.
Caroline, tell us about some of the reaction that you're hearing.
The premier of this province, David Eby, held a press conference yesterday. He obviously was very upset about what happened. The public safety minister also was part of this press conference, and they basically said that they will be providing supports to the students, to the staff. And we also heard from a local counselor, Chris Norbury. This is what he had to say.
I know these children. You know, I've seen them grow up. I saw them at their sporting events. I saw them everywhere. And knowing that I can't see them anymore, that we won't see them anymore, that their family has to live with this incredible loss that I can't imagine.
We are hoping to find out a little bit more about what happened, although RCMP say it's unlikely they'll know why this happened.
All right. Thank you so much, Caroline.
Thanks.
The CBC's Caroline Bargut in Tumbler Ridge, BC. Prime Minister Mark Carney says he is devastated by the shootings. In a statement, Carney says his prayers and condolences are with the families and the victims. He calls on Canadians to grieve alongside those whose lives have been changed irreversibly. Carney is suspending his planned trip to Germany. He was going to attend the Munich Security Conference. Public Safety Minister Gary Anandasangari says the violence has rocked Canada and stolen a sense of safety for all students. Anandasangari says he is offering Ottawa's full support and assistance to provincial authorities in BC. And there's more reaction coming from overseas. Here is British Prime Minister Keir Starmer.
This morning I conveyed the UK's deepest condolences to Prime Minister Carney and the people of Canada for the devastating shooting in Tumbler Ridge.
On social media, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said no one should remain indifferent when children are killed, and tragedies like this should never happen anywhere in the world. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu will be in the White House today to meet with U.S. President Donald Trump. Topping the agenda, Iran. Nuclear talks between the U.S. and Iran are at a critical stage, and Netanyahu is trying to influence those talks as Trump weighs his options. Cameron McIntosh has more from Jerusalem.
With American fighter jets still poised to strike Iran from an aircraft carrier stationed in the Arabian Sea, Israel's Prime Minister paying a hastily scheduled visit to U.S. President Donald Trump as Washington and Tehran negotiate to begin nuclear talks. I will present to the president our views regarding the negotiations, says Benjamin Netanyahu, who is not publicly asking the U.S. to attack Iran, but insists any deal must include removing threats against Israel from Iran's ballistic missiles and proxy groups, issues Iran says are off the table. Middle East analyst Tarek Kenny Shawa.
Netanyahu's primary objective with Trump is really about pushing him to either negotiate harder with Iran or just follow through with actual military strikes.
Trump threatened Iran when it put down anti-regime protests, but has since turned to diplomacy. Iran says it's willing to talk. But a foreign ministry spokesperson condemned the meeting with Netanyahu, as other countries in the region fear a U.S. attack may lead to a regional war. Unclear in all of it what Trump wants. Speaking to Fox News about Iran,
I think they want to make a deal. I think they'd be foolish if they didn't.
As that aircraft carrier sits ready to strike. Cameron McIntosh, CBC News, Jerusalem.
Canada's major airlines are working to get Canadians home from Cuba. The island is running out of oil, including jet fuel. As Alexander Silberman reports, Cuba relies on Canadian tourists to help support the strained economy.
On the streets of Havana, daily life is at a standstill amid a deepening energy crisis. Bus stops are empty. Many businesses are closed. And Canadian airlines are flying vacationers back home early as they wind down operations.
They're tricky times and sad times.
Kristen McQueen is a Canadian who splits her time between Havana and Prince Edward Island. She says the Cuban capital is quieter, with fuel rationing measures in place at gas stations.
It's strictly in digital U.S. funds with a ticket, like a turn system.
The lack of oil is crippling Cuba's already beleaguered economy. Street protests have flared up in recent months in response. And now the tourism sector, which has already struggled since the pandemic, will lose access to Canadians, the nation's most frequent visitors. 750,000 came last year.
I'm extremely concerned.
Jennifer Raymer runs the Canadian charity Together for Cuba.
The Cubans are affected in a massive way. They lose their jobs in the hotels, taxi drivers.
Mark Entwistle is the former Canadian ambassador to Cuba. He says the country is facing a humanitarian crisis.
And the situation is critical.
Critical and growing worse amid shortages of food and medicine, leaving Entwistle calling for international aid. Alexander Silberman, CBC News, Montreal.
The Kremlin says it will reach out to the Trump administration to learn more about new restrictions on Venezuelan oil. The U.S. Treasury Department issued a general license to facilitate the exploration and production of oil and gas in Venezuela, but that license did not authorize transactions involving Russian entities. A New Mexico tribe believes a culturally significant war shield could be somewhere in Canada. The shield was one of many items stolen from the Santa Ana Pueblo during a series of robberies nearly 40 years ago. The tribe has been tracking down the lost items for years. Jackie McKay with CBC Vancouver's investigative unit tells us the search led them north.
When it was taken, it was just like another member of, that family went missing.
Thomas Armijo's job is trying to track down dozens of artifacts stolen from New Mexico decades ago. It's frustrating and emotional work.
An item like that here in Santana, we kind of view them, as another living person that's, living, breathing, has emotions and all that.
The war shield looks like a hide drum with red and yellow sun rays and black buffalo horns. He helped track it to Canadian art dealer Donald Ellis, but this is where the trail runs cold. CBC News spoke to Ellis, who said he purchased the shield in 2005 from a New Mexico antique dealer and sold it not long after. He can't confirm who bought it because his gallery only keeps records for 7 years. But a 2021 Instagram post by his gallery says it was sold to a Canadian private collector.
Consider, do I really want to own something like this?
At the Museum of Vancouver, Sharon Fortney traces the origins of Indigenous artifacts. She says if you're buying an artifact, you need to ask some questions.
I don't think anybody really wants to have stolen art in their home. It's the right thing to do, I think, to let the community know where it is and that it's at least safe and being cared for.
Fortney says Canada doesn't have any laws that would require a private collector or museum to return the shield, but urges whoever has it to reach out to Armijo. Jackie McKay, CBC News, Vancouver.
That is the latest national and international news from World Report. I'm Marcia Young.
Good morning, Manitoba. Thanks for joining us here on Information Radio live in downtown Winnipeg on CBC. I'm Marcy Marcusa. You're on 89.3 FM, 990 AM on that app and YouTube. Mild down south again. Winnipeg going to be pretty melty and warm today. Although in Churchill, we return to normal conditions, pretty frigid way up north. Thanks for being here. It is Wednesday and February 11th, already almost mid-month. February goes so fast. This hour on the show, we're going to be talking about travel. Coming up at 10 to 8 this morning, there have been changes now. WestJet is cutting direct flights out of Winnipeg to some popular U.S. cities like Nashville and Atlanta. We've been hearing in the news this morning how it's affecting travelers. We're going to get some more reaction from an aviation expert as well about the change in the routes. Also, how well can you hype up your friends? Good enough to land them a date? There's a Winnipeg event coming up that's going to put those skills to the test, so we'll tell you about that just in time for Valentine's Day. But we start by hearing from a local advocate who says we need a transit riders union like they have in cities like Toronto. So stay tuned. We're going to talk to them. Right now, Heather Wells joins us with other news headlines at 11 minutes past 7. Hi, Heather.
Hi there. Good morning. A young family says they have lost faith in the system after their 6-month-old baby died last month in a Winnipeg hospital. Lou 10 says his little boy had a hole in his esophagus. He says staff at Winnipeg's Children's Hospital waited too long to transfer Luca to surgery. The boy's death is now being investigated as a critical incident. Winnipeg's mayor is confident a proposed new bylaw to ban protests in some locations can stand the test of a charter challenge. The city wants to prohibit protests within 100 meters of schools, hospitals, libraries, community centers, and places of worship. Scott Gillingham says such measures are needed in today's world. We'll hear more on these stories and other news from Manitoba coming up at 7:30.
All right. Thank you, Heather.
Thank you.
Now we go to Abby for that weather forecast.
Yeah, we're looking at a mix of sun and clouds with mild conditions in the southern part of the province, while the north towards Churchill really facing those biting wind chills this morning in that range of minus 43. That is what it feels like around Churchill and surrounding regions. Now a new player just got into the mix here. We have a yellow advisory for localized fog around the Dauphin area. So if you are in the Parkland region this morning, you will notice misty conditions, and this might be impacting visibility. So take it easy, but that should clear for a mix of sun and clouds later in the morning. But this morning, you will be dealing with some foggy conditions, hence that yellow advisory for localized fog in some areas in the Dauphin area. Winnipeg right now, minus 15 at some spots. We're tracking minus 16, minus 17 in some areas. Clear conditions. We have the morning temperatures hover around this range for all morning before we get to a high of minus 4 under lighterly winds later in the day. In the southern part of the province, we're looking at minus 11 in Brandon, and we're looking at minus 19 towards the Gimli area. Also clear skies. And don't forget, minus 18 in the Dauphin area. Misty conditions with that yellow advisory. So take it easy there.
All right. Thanks, Abby.
Thank you.
With a quick look at the commute, here's Corey.
Yeah, the only issue's been at Nairn and Panet this morning. Those lights were flashing red, but that has now been repaired. So hopefully smooth sailing through there. If you do see anything else, though, you can give me a call, 204-788-3093.
Well, as I alluded to here, a local transit advocate says that bus riders in Winnipeg should have more say in how the city's transit system is run and managed. He wants to see a riders union here in the city, similar to what he sees elsewhere. Adam Johnston is with us next. He's an active and public transportation advocate. He's also the host of Not Necessarily the Automobile on UMFM. That's the radio station over at the University of Manitoba, and he's here via Zoom. Hey there.
Hi, Marcy. Thank you very much for having me this morning.
Thanks for being with us. So what is a transit riders union?
Marcy, it's a very good question. Just briefly, what a transit riders union, generally, it's a grassroots member-driven organization that's run by its members that represents the interests of riders regarding transit concerns. And what a transit riders union does is to demand things like better service, affordability, and accessibility, and fight for funding to improve public transit in general, to make it what it should be, like a good, solid public service that it should be.
How would it be different from advocacy groups that are already pretty involved, like, for example, Functional Transit Winnipeg, and we have obviously a self-proclaimed bike mayor here who's very active?
Oh, I think there's a bit of some differences with that. Advocacy is basically more inside within government, not out. But Transit Riders Union, what my understanding is, you're always active within the community. You're protesting like outside of government. You're also working within the halls of City Hall. So it's kind of like a bit of both. And like I said, it's really a lot of it's organizing as well. Like you're organizing people to understand these issues that are concerning the transit. Like, for example, we could pick, I guess, the new transit system that's been raised a lot of concerns, and a lot of it actually comes down to service issues due to that. The new system that was supposed to solve all these issues still hasn't solved a lot of the issues of service. We're still seeing long wait times, buses pass by, and a lot of it also is tied to funding. And now we're starting to see the consistent chronic underfunding of public transit from all three levels starting to seep into not only service. Like I said, it's affecting how people get around because of it, but also we're seeing it because of our fares keep going up yearly. It's $3.45 for an adult cash fare now, and also that's also impacting security concerns on the bus. We're seeing more violent instances on the bus, and that's causing fare evasion, and so everything's tied together.
Yeah. If we lean back into the idea of a union, though, and how it's different, because the city obviously has been on the program, and they've been sharing with Winnipeggers, we're open to changing this. We want to hear your feedback. But without a union, that feedback obviously can only come in, by calling the city and reaching out one person at a time. What have these riders unions done in other cities like Toronto? Can you give us an example of where they've affected change?
So I could give you a couple examples of change. So I'll start with the TTC, that's the Toronto Transit Riders in Toronto. So what they have done in recent years is, through the power of collective activism there, they have frozen bus fares there in Toronto. Meanwhile, in Seattle, their transit union over time has done massive gains in terms of improving transit there. They've helped provide lower fares for certain groups of people, like youth, seniors, or pretty much fare free in many cases. Also, they've helped develop the transit map there in Seattle. So that's also a big win for that city. So there's a lot of things that a transit riders union can do in terms of helping improve transit. They can be a collective voice here in the city of Winnipeg, where they can be the eyes and ears of what's wrong with the system, how to fix it, and also raise that voice outside of City Hall, but also inside of City Hall as well. And I think that's part of the reason why a lot of ways that we're seeing many of the problems with Winnipeg Transit right now is that a lot of it, there's a lot of individual concerns, but there's not real one collective voice.
Got it. So where are you at with the process? What would it actually take to have a transit riders union created in Winnipeg?
I think that's a good question. Like you said, Marcy, there's other groups, like you mentioned, Functional Transit Winnipeg, and I do believe there's they are active in some cases. It's going to be talking to other groups right now, that do take transit often.
Are you leading the charge, though, and hoping to, if somebody's listening and they want to get more involved, do you have it organized to that point? Or at this stage, is it just more at the idea stage?
It's kind of a bit of both. It's kind of at a preliminary stage right now. Just like I said, throwing it out there. So it's a bit of work now. It's at the preliminary stages, but hopefully that we can see something in the future.
Thank you very much for being with us, Adam, and telling us about this. Appreciate your time.
My pleasure.
That's Adam Johnston with us live on Zoom. Actor and public transportation advocate himself. He's also host of Not Necessarily the Automobile on UMFM, which is University of Manitoba station, of course. We want to throw this out to you if you want to weigh in. Is it time for Winnipeg to have a transit riders union? And if you would join, why? You can share your thoughts, and we're going to throw that out actually on the call-in today on Radio Noon. So between 12:30 and 1, the whole conversation, they'll talk with a member of Toronto's Riders Union, as Adam was outlining there what that is like in that city. So you can join the conversation between 12:30 and 1 by calling or texting Radio Noon.
Have you visited CBC's Being Black in Canada website? It's an online platform to explore the stories and experiences of Black Canadians across the country. A space for news, documentaries, arts and culture, Black achievement in sports, and so much more. Celebrating a uniquely Canadian perspective on Black issues with the cultural moments that matter to Black Canadians. Visit cbc.ca/Being Black in Canada.
7:21 is the time right now. We have Olympic update coming up in 4 minutes from now. And then we have a story about bringing your friend on a date. Now, that is usually a red flag, but one Winnipeg event wants you to do it.
It's so much better when you have those close friends to pitch you because they're just better advocates. It's just more intentional. It's very engaging.
So we're going to hear more about what this event is all about and why you should bring your hype friend to come and be with you on a date. That's at 7:40 on CBC. Corey Funk and I were just dying of laughter in the newsroom when we first heard about this. Not because it's a bad idea, but just because we were imagining the hype friend.
Yeah, exactly. Just like a guy like over your shoulder, like at any date, just like, yo, my friend's the best. He's like really good at playing cribbage. Look out.
Woo, woo. You would be a great hype friend, I think, actually.
I think I would. I definitely...
You could wear your bike hat and your like Birks and socks
exactly.
and be like, woo!
Yeah. I'm for hire. Just, $25 an hour, let's say.
Hey, listen, let's look in this bag.
Yeah.
Whoop! We're going to put up a still photo on the YouTube stream right away. But Corey is going to be my model right now, kind of my hype friend for this contest we have coming up. So what I'm sending Corey right now is CBC2. Here's some socks. Those are cool, eh? Mm-hmm. There's a bag there. What's this? There's also this CBC little container. Oh, that's for your iPhone. If you want to put your iPhone in and keep it, from getting wet if you're on a winter walk or something like that. And then open that up. I think these are mugs from CBC.
Yeah, it is.
Very
That's
nice.
right.
So what all of this is about is this beautiful, lovely little prize pack from CBC Swag. This is to get you to call us with your cute meat story. Meet cute story?
Meet cute. It's like a term in like rom-coms.
Sound like
the
I'm
meet
90.
Cute. It's like it's a very cute moment where the couple meets up and you're like, will they get together? Will they not? I don't know.
So what is it?
But they do get together, obviously.
Always on the channel.
Yeah.
So what is your meet cute story? Why? Because Valentine's Day is coming up and we've got all this swag to give away. So tell us your meet cute story. We're going to take calls, right?
Yeah, we're going to take calls. You can call us on our listener line and tell us your cute story. Maybe you can also bring in the person that you met in a cute way together. You can tell it together. I'm sure.
Cute.
And they'll probably have like different views, maybe. Or you could just tell your own meet cute story either way. 204-788-3205. That's 204-788-3205.
We are going to take listener lines only. We will tell you who the winner is on Friday. So you got to get those calls in because we're going to close this off tomorrow because tomorrow's Thursday already. So tomorrow at 10 o'clock, we're going to close the contest. But you can call now, 788-3205. Do you have a cute story about meeting Annika? I don't remember.
We were high school sweethearts.
Oh,
so
see, that's cute.
So it wasn't like a moment. It was kind of like, you're cute. I think you're cute. Let's date. And then we started dating. I baked her cookies, and I asked her to date me. I wrote in letters on there. So when I asked her out, I think that was kind of cute.
Love that.
Yeah.
I met my husband sitting around a campfire, but what we always remember about the night we met is this big, large American man wearing a poncho and eating pickled string beans. And he was sitting right in front of us and having a time. So sometimes we buy pickled string beans and just remember back in the day.
Oh, that's so sweet.
I know. It's kind of weird, though. People are like, what? Why do you have pickled string beans in your fridge? I'm like, oh, pretty good. Yeah. Okay, so what is your meet cute story? 788-3205. Give us a call. It's a really good prize pack here. Traffic-wise, as Corey said, the only problem all morning has been out in Transcona. We're talking about Regent and Panet, and that's kind of right at that intersection where Regent and Nairn come together. Is that clear now?
It's clear now. So
Okay.
those lights are all repaired. prepared, good to go.
Beauty. Any other problems? 788-3093 is where you're going to reach us. We have still ahead local news coming up at 7:30 here on Information Radio, so stay tuned for that. We also are going to have more analysis of some of the flights that have been canceled out of Winnipeg. You'll hear part of it on the news, and then a full interview coming up in the back half hour here of Information Radio between 7:30 and 8. We're at minus 16 in Winnipeg. Winds are calm. Over in Brandon, it's minus 11 with cloud cover. And up in Thompson, it is minus 15 and calm. And we don't have any new developments to report out of Tumbler just yet out of the tragedy in BC. We do have updates, though, right now on the Olympics.
Good morning, I'm Scott Reguera with your Olympic Games report. To the field of play in a moment. First, the Canadian Olympic Committee says its thoughts are with the community of Tumbler Ridge, British Columbia. 9 people, plus a suspect, were killed in a mass shooting yesterday afternoon, 6 of them found inside the community's secondary school. The COC says Team Canada stands with everyone affected as they navigate the difficult days ahead. To the games now.
Starry, starry night.
That's Vincent, the Don McLean ballad figure skaters Piper Gillies and Paul Poirier will skate to in their free dance this afternoon, an event they hope finally sees them reach the podium. My Olympic Report co-host Sonali Karnik has more on what they're up against. Hi, Sonali.
Hi, Scott.
Sonali, what are you expecting from Poirier and Gillies today?
I mean, they've had a pretty good season so far. They won Skate Canada on the ISU Grand Prix circuit, 2nd place in Finland, and they're 5th in the overall world standings. Piper and Paul, they're both 34 years old. This is their 3rd Olympics together. This is expected to be their last games. This program for the free dance to Vincent, that music you just heard, is actually something they've skated before. It was used in competition several years ago, but they still felt as if they were living in the shadow of, I don't know if you've heard of them, Tessa Virtue and Scott Moore. So they brought it back this season with some tweaks to make it more their own and help them stand out in really the incredibly close field of competitors. Now, whether the judges will see that and give them the marks to make it onto the podium is another matter. And as Canadians know well, Scott, judging can be controversial in this sport.
Bit of a history there.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Sonali.
Thanks, Scott.
That's my Olympic Report co-host Sonali Karnik. The free dance will go at 1:30 Eastern Time. Beyond figure skating, Canada's next best shot at a medal today is probably on the oval. Speed skater Laurent Dubreuil will look to reach the podium in the 1,000 meters. It's a discipline he won silver in at the last games in Beijing. CBC's Omar Dabagi Pacheco is in Milano and has this preview.
Intensity building here at the Milano Speed Skating Stadium as the fastest humans on the planet are set to take to the ice. You might as well call it the Jordan Stoltz show. I'll tell you why in a little bit, but first let's look at the Canadian. Laurent Dubreuil, silver medalist from Beijing 2022 in this distance. He hasn't had the best season though. He's not at the top of the rankings where he would like to be, but I was speaking to him just after practice. He said, look, my starts are super strong. I feel stronger than I have ever felt. And he said he's having fun. In fact, he said his 2 kids are out there in the audience watching down on him. That's going to be the highlight for him. They have never seen him in Olympic competition. Basically said, look, if I'm not smiling at the beginning of that race, something's wrong because I'm going to have fun. Then you got Anders Johnson. Debut for him here at the Olympics. He's someone who switched over from hockey to speed skating at age 17. He is very hungry for this, so it'll be interesting to see what he can do out there on the ice. But American Jordan Stoltz, that's who everyone is going to be watching. This is a guy that has revolutionized the sport, whether it's the 500, the 1,000, or the 1,500 meter. He breaks record after record, seemingly unstoppable. He's the guy that everybody is going to be aiming for as the 1,000 meter event gets underway.
The CBC's Omar Dabagi Pacheco. The men's 1,000 meters goes at 12:30 Eastern Time. Meanwhile, on the pebbled ice, the men's curling event begins today, with many wondering whether history might repeat itself.
They're going to shake. That's it. That's it. There it is. Time now to let loose in both Sochi and the Sioux.
That's Brad Jacobs winning gold at the Sochi Games back in 2014. Jacobs is the last Canadian male skip to capture an Olympic title, and the Sault Ste. Marie native is back trying to claim another. Jacobs and his teammates will start their bonspiel today with a game against Germany. That will go at 1:05 Eastern Time. In the meantime, there's freestyle skiing going on right now. Maya Schwinghammer, Canada's best hope in the women's moguls final. Schwinghammer grew up in Saskatoon, where she learned how to ski by being pulled behind her dad's snowmobile on the lakes around the city, which is, of course, a little flatter than most. And that is your Olympic Games report this hour. I'm Scott Regier.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg. At 7:30, it is minus 16. It's a cold start to Wednesday, but we are going to warm up. Lots of sunshine out there, a southerly breeze, and a high today of minus 4.
As British Columbians, I know that one of the things we do best is look after each other, and I'm asking British Columbians to look after the people of Tumbler Ridge.
BC Premier David Eby responding to yesterday's mass shooting at a secondary school in the northeast BC town of Tumbler Ridge. Police say 10 people are dead, including the shooter, and more than 24 others are injured. Georgie Smythe reports.
And our principal goes throughout the halls and she's saying, people close your doors, lockdowns.
17-year-old Darian Quist was in a mechanics classroom when a shooter started opening fire in his school in Tumbler Ridge.
So we all barricaded up the doors with some iron tables.
He says he stayed on the phone to his mum until police arrived.
And we were all escorted out of the building and sent.
Chris Clark from BC RCMP says they found 6 people dead inside the school. 25 people were injured, some critically. 1 person died on their way to hospital. Then investigators found another crime scene.
We have the school, and then we have found 2 other persons deceased at our residence in Tumbler.
Police were light on details of the identity of the suspect, but earlier alerts described them as a woman in a dress with brown hair. They say details of the weapon used or motives may come in time. Georgie Smythe, CBC News, Vancouver.
Now, Prime Minister Mark Carney has suspended his trips to Halifax and Munich, Germany, in light of the incident in BC. In a statement last night, Carney says he's devastated by the horrific shooting in Tumbler Ridge and joins Canadians grieving with those whose lives have changed irreversibly. You can hear the latest on that story coming up on World Report at 8. A young family is shattered after their 6-month-old baby died last month in a Winnipeg hospital. Lou Ten says his boy Luca had a hole in his esophagus. He argues staff at Winnipeg's Children's Hospital waited too long to transfer Luca to surgery. The boy's father says he has lost faith in the healthcare system.
I used to trust them like everything. But right now in my mind, I think they kill Luca. It's not some certain person. It's the whole system, the hospital.
Ten says he was told by health officials Luca received appropriate care in the ER overnight. He was told a tear in the esophagus usually heals on its own. However, Ten argues hospital staff should have noticed Luca's deteriorating health earlier. A Manitoba musician now living in Nashville is lamenting the loss of WestJet's direct flights from Winnipeg. Songwriter Leanne Pearson visits Winnipeg as often as she can. She says her family also visits her using WestJet's nonstop service to Nashville. Pearson is sad to see those flights drop off the schedule.
My heart just kind of drops a little bit because you know that it's going to be a little bit harder, a little bit longer. You might have delays. There might be weather.
WestJet is also suspending a direct service between Winnipeg and Atlanta. The airline says it's because fewer people are traveling to the U.S. Winnipeg's mayor says the city's legal team has carefully considered the Charter of Rights and Freedoms in proposing a new bylaw to limit protests. The city wants to prohibit protests within 100 meters of schools, hospitals, libraries, community centers, and places of worship. Scott Gillingham says such measures are needed in today's world.
There's a way for all of us, I think, to kind of coexist, allowing people to maintain their right to rally and to protest. But at the same time, I think it's very reasonable that you shouldn't be subjected to anything that people may feel would be intimidating.
Gillingham says Ottawa and the province are also looking at protest limits. The mayor's inner circle will discuss the proposal next week. An expansion at a Steinbach hospital is now complete. Bethesda Regional Health Centre now has new palliative care beds, a lab, and 3 new operating theatres. Delbert Duick lives in Steinbach and was visiting his mom at the hospital. He says this addition is needed, but worries there isn't enough space if the facility needs to expand further in the future.
The city's growing so fast, and with all the other communities growing so fast as well, you have so many people coming in. There's even been Winnipeg people come into this hospital.
The $64 million project took 31 months to complete. Patients are expected to start receiving care in that new space in March. Winnipeg's Seth Jarvis will once again have a homegrown rooting section when he suits up for Team Canada. The Carolina Hurricanes Centre got the call as a last-minute injury replacement on the Canadian men's hockey team in Milan. That left a group of his friends scrambling to make their way to Italy to cheer him on. Matt McLeod says he and his buddies are grateful to Air Canada for helping them all make the trip.
A once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for himself and for us just to be able to go out there and support him is really something incredible for us. Just as a group of guys, like we're all really tight, and being able to support one another is great. So it was awesome.
Canada hits the ice for its first game on Thursday morning against Czechia. You can find the latest news updated throughout your day. All you have to do is head to cbc.ca/Manitoba.
Oh my gosh. I'm guessing based on what we know about that group of friends, they're going to be easy to spot in the crowd once hockey starts, hey?
I'm sure they'll be pretty loud.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, thanks, Heather.
Thank you.
They'll represent us. They should be pretty loud. Let's get into what's happening in the weather forecast. Abby, I know that it's really cold up north, but here in the south, who's going to complain? It feels so spring-like. I feel like this is a little gift after that long, cold January.
I know after the long, cold minus feels like minus 50s that we had in the southern part of the province, this is more like the relief we'd get in February. But we need to talk about that thick blanket of smoke in the southwestern corner of the province this morning, impacting Dauphin and surrounding regions. We have that yellow advisory for fog in that region. It's going to stay with you for parts of the morning, and then it clears as you're beginning to see the sun rise in that part of the province later today. But the cold still gripping regions towards Churchill this morning, where the actual temperature is still in the range of minus 30s. For Winnipeg right now, we're tracking minus 16, clear outside. It's going to hover around minus 15 all morning. Then we'll see a sunny high of minus 4 with just light southerly breeze in this part of the province. In the Pembina Valley region from Morden, tracking it towards Port La Prairie this morning, we're looking at minus 7 in that part of the province. Some cloudy conditions with sporting fog here and there. That should lift as you get into the morning, and we will see highs get to 0 for the Pembina Valley region. For the Westman region from Brandon towards Nipawin, we're looking at minus 11. Cloudy, also tracking fog there. That should dissipate as you get towards the morning period, and then you see temperature climb to about 0 for the Brandon region. Dauphin, as mentioned, yellow fog advisory in place. Current conditions around minus 18, and it's misty there. Take it easy if you're on the road. You warm up to 0 later in the day. Gimli, you're clear at minus 19. You warm up nicely to a sunny high of minus 5 later. Just some light breeze off the lake would come your way. You will notice that. For the power, Flin-Flon and surrounding communities hovering around minus 13 at this time. We'll have a slim chance of morning flurries, and then you warm up to minus 5. Thompson, you're looking at minus 15 there. Cloudy there. Slim chance of flurries also in the forecast. You warm up to minus 8. Over into Dooley Lake, minus 16. We're tracking light snowfall there right now. You warm up to minus 9. And Churchill, you're frigid at minus 30 with ice crystals, and the wind chill feels like minus 43. But for Winnipeg right now, we're looking at minus 15, minus 16, depending on where you are, and the fog lifting in most regions in the south.
All right, thanks, Abby.
Thank you.
Let's get into the morning commute. Been kind of quiet, Corey.
Yes, except at northbound La Jamordière and East Mint Place. There's been a collision that's knocked down the light stand. It actually has the lights completely out there right now. So it's right outside the Mint there. And that has meant big backups, heard from one caller as far back as Abenoji-Mikina. So heads up, that's northbound La Jamordière at East Mint Place, right outside the Mint. And also that there is emergency vehicles on scene. The crash is blocking the curb lane lane, we heard. So keep a left to get around that. But it is going to be very, very slow going northbound Lash in that area this morning. If you have any updates on that, anything else you're seeing, you can give me a call on the CBC commuter line. That number, 204-788-3093.
Okay, that just developing. So thanks, Corey.
Thank you.
Right now it is 20 to 8 on 89.3. And of course, Valentine's Day is on Saturday. We're all talking about all things love. But one Winnipegger is hosting a unique event around speed dating. So rather than boast about yourself and boost yourself, you bring along a wingman to sing your accomplishments. Bragging and Beers is happening on Thursday at Kilter Brewing. It's geared toward people 30 and older. Bobby Tanguay is the creator of the event. She owns Love Collective Introductions, a matchmaking service here in Winnipeg, and she's in studio. Hi.
Hi, thanks for having me.
I love this idea. So tell me how it works.
It's exactly like you said. Singles, it's a curated event, and singles bring their friends to pitch them. The singles, they're not coming to perform. The friends do that for them. They talk about their values and their wants and what makes them so great. And who better to do it? Your best friend.
Yeah. So tell me where the idea of the event comes from when you think about what a person normally might have trouble saying about themselves. Because we all have that, I think, trouble bragging about ourselves.
Right. I actually saw the idea in San Francisco. It was called Pitch a Friend. And that's kind of and I felt Winnipeg really needed something like this specifically for singles. There's not a lot of events happening in the city. And also, Winnipeg is such a great community of people and close-knit community. So why not bring community together for singles, for single people specifically?
So if you and I were on this speed date, and you were...
It's not speed dating.
Okay, I have to stop saying that.
It is not speed dating.
So tell us about the format a bit more then, because there's beers and bragging, it's called.
Yes, beer. So it's at Kilter. We start at 7 p.m. We grab a beer. There's also a beer tasting around 8:30. And basically, the friend and the single person get up on stage, and the friend pitches them and talks about how great their best friend is.
Oh, wow.
To a crowd of singles.
So that's actually even more, I think, exciting, but it might be a little bit intimidating as well.
Well,
how do you get over that?
I think it's pretty low pressure. Because the single just has to sit there while the friend pitches them. I think it's pretty low pressure.
Yeah.
Compared to speed dating, where you have 5 minutes to,
Fair enough.
tell them about yourself, and it's kind of nerve-wracking.
Tell me a little bit more about what your matchmaking clients have told you about dating fatigue.
So dating fatigue is such a real thing. It's emotional, mental exhaustion and burnout from dating. Because it's just the same. You're just a number on the apps. And I've just been hearing that more and more. Like, they're exhausted. They feel like they're ready to give up. So that's where matchmaking, I think, really comes into play. It is just, how everybody, right now, we outsource everything. Why wouldn't you outsource your dating? Mm-hmm. So you're not getting that fatigue. So you're not just a number on an app.
And tell me a little bit more about the age category, because this is 30 plus. So what are some of the challenges that might come with dating at that age category, and maybe even unique to where we live in Winnipeg?
So when you get into your 40s, what I'm noticing is, again, there's dating fatigue, and we don't have time. Like, time is such an issue, right? And then throw in kids in the mix, throw in possibly a divorce. But that's where matchmaking comes in. I take out all the guesswork. I even break up with someone.
Really?
Yeah, even gracefully, of course. But yeah, I even break up with people if they're uncomfortable.
How many people are you looking for still at this event? Is it full for tomorrow night?
It's full for women.
Okay.
The women were really eager to get in on this. And we could use a few more men.
Okay.
So
how do people get involved?
So you could reach out to me on socials. You could email me, Love Collective Introductions.
Yeah. So if people are on stage tomorrow night and make the pitch, then how do the actual matches happen? What happens after that?
So then after that, everybody gets an interest card at the end of the night, and they fill out the interest card to whoever showed interest in them, or they showed interest in. It has to be a match, though. And then I collect the cards, and within 48 hours, I contact everybody to let them know who they matched up with.
Because you went to an event before like this, and you got the idea from elsewhere.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about some of the hype. Like if you're hyping up a friend, I guess because people could do that in different ways. They could be very, formal. Like Corey and I are both married, but I'm just gonna use Corey because I know him really well. So it's like Corey likes to bake bread, and he's actually a really funny guy. He's very genuine. Or would I get up there and go Corey, go Corey? Do you think we're gonna have different styles of hype?
Absolutely, absolutely. There's gonna be different styles. I know someone that is actually bringing their stepchild from their previous relationship. She's 21. She's older.
See, that's lovely though. That's smart.
But that really says a lot about him, right?
Yeah.
As a person. I think a lot of women will be really hyping up their girlfriends, but I think the men will be a little bit more calmer and more collected. And
it's such a smart idea to get to some of the realities of a human being.
Right.
Yeah.
People are craving human connection right now.
Yeah. What's been your experience with dating, that might have led you to want to help others?
I've dated a lot. I've dated a lot. It was kind of like an Olympic sport at one point. I know what works and what doesn't work.
Yeah. Thank you very much for coming in, Bobby. Really appreciate it. Good luck with the event.
Thanks.
Bobby Tanguay is the owner of Love Connection Introductions, and they need more men. They can handle more men tomorrow for their events, so you can reach out on socials, as she said. They're doing their bragging and beers. It is at Kilter Brewing tomorrow at 7 o'clock.
Hi,
now,
I'm Saroja Coelho, host of the Saturday afternoon call-in show Just Asking.
And I'm Ian Hannamansing, host of the Sunday afternoon call-in show Cross Country Checkup.
Whether it's world events
or what's happening in your backyard,
every weekend we connect Canada live.
That's Just Asking with Saroja Coelho, Saturday afternoons at 4 Eastern.
And Cross Country Checkup with Ian Hannamansing, Sunday afternoons at 4 Eastern on CBC Radio 1.
All right, ladies. Corey is taken, just to be clear, we used him as an example in the interview. Sorry, Annika. Just looking across at him in the control room thinking, who can I use as an example? Minus 16 is the time right now. It's calm in Winnipeg. We're going to be at minus 4 today for a daytime high. Now, in a moment, we're actually going to be building on a story that you might have been hearing in the news about changes to flights out of Winnipeg. No more direct flights to Nashville. So we're going to have an aviation expert on to talk more about it. But one of the people we've been hearing about in the news that's affected by this is Leanne Pearson. She's from Winnipeg, but she actually lives down in Nashville pursuing her country music career. So in advance of that interview, we thought we'd hear some of her music. Here she is with Miles Away.
They say distance makes the heart grow fonder, but I have to wonder, whoever said that has never been gone so long away from you. It's been months, but it feels like years. You're there and I'm here. I love you more each day, even though you're miles away. And I can't wait to marry you one day when you're not miles away. Miles away, yeah. I miss your smile and the way you make me feel safe. I'm so sorry that I had to go away. Leaving you behind was the hardest thing, but I'll be back soon. It's been months, but it feels like years. You're there and I'm here. I love you more each day, even though you're miles away. And I can't wait to marry you one day when you're not miles away. Miles away, yeah. we'll have a nice ring. I love you more each day, even though you're miles away. I can't wait to marry you one day when you're not miles away.
Leanne Pearson and Miles Away on CBC. She's from Winnipeg, but she lives in Nashville. She's pursuing there her country music career. Well, as I mentioned, we're playing her music because she is part of our next story. As you've been hearing in the news this morning, if you were hoping to take a quick trip down south, you might not be able to get there directly from Winnipeg, depending on where you're going. WestJet announcing yesterday they're suspending direct flights from Winnipeg to Atlanta and Nashville. In a statement, the airline said the changes come after it saw a notable decline to travel to the U.S. last year. So Leanne Pearson, who we just heard singing there, spoke to CBC's Josh Crabb about this.
There were years that I lived here that flights got too expensive. The duration was too long. They're worried about delays, that sort of thing. And so as soon as that direct flight happened, I mean, everybody wanted to come visit. With the price of, say, NHL tickets going up or just the cost of living going up, I feel like people aren't going to prioritize flying, especially when those direct flights were there. There was probably a ton of Winnipeg Jets fans. Well, there were. I'll have to say everyone had Jets hats on or Jets t-shirts, but everybody wants to come and wants to see a game here. You have to experience an NHL game in the South. They're magical. And so I think that they're going to see less Winnipeggers going to the Preds games.
So that was some of the impact from Leanne Pearson's point of view, who is, as I mentioned, from Winnipeg, but now pursuing her musical career in Nashville, talking about the changes in direct flights. WestJet going to be suspending direct flights from Winnipeg to Nashville and also to Atlanta. In a moment, we're going to talk to an aviation expert. John Graddick is expected to join us, who is based out at McGill University, about the impact of this. And if you want to weigh in, you can always do that online at 788-3205. One of the other things we're looking for you to call us about, in case you missed us earlier this half hour, is our Valentine contest. We've got a nice prize pack for two. We want to hear your meet cute story. How'd you meet your partner? 788-3205. John Graddick is up with us now to talk about this aviation story. Hey, John.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm well. So I feel like in Winnipeg this happens to us. We get direct flights, they change them. But what do you make about this latest decision from WestJet to suspend Atlanta-Nashville?
Well, I think that, the Nashville operation has been fairly new for our friends at WestJet. So I think that what they've done is that they've seen that the market has not really generated enough profitability on the run. So I think that they basically suspended the service. I don't think they're abandoning Nashville per se. I think they're just going to delay it until such time as our U.S. friends kind of change their attitude towards Canada and Canadians feel more comfortable in going to Nashville and other U.S. destinations as well.
So let's talk about that and how much that might be part of this. WestJet saying they have seen this notable decline in travel from Canada to the U.S. last year. In general, how's that impacting airlines then?
Oh, it's significant. It's kind of, it looks like the downturn is somewhere around 30 to 35% from forecast. So there is a significant drop in Canadians wanting to visit the U.S. And I think that, WestJet had plans to grow their U.S. market significantly. I think what they've done this week is really cut back a total of 15 U.S. routes. So Winnipeg has 2 routes that have been impacted directly, but it's across Canada from Toronto to Calgary to Vancouver. So they've cut back significantly.
I was going to ask you if they suspended direct flights in any other areas, but it sounds like the answer is yes.
Yes. Oh, yes, they have. They're not picking on Winnipeg. They're basically looking at spreading the cutback across their Canadian network.
What needs to happen for the flights to be restored in Winnipeg? Is this all come down to bums and seats?
Yep, I think it's people that I think the demand has to kind of reappear. Whether that demand is going to reappear within the Trump administration is a function of how the White House treats its Canadian relationships. So I think Canadians have been this has been a Canadian-led movement in terms of this decision not to travel to the U.S. There's no government edict saying not to travel. Mm-hmm. This is all generated by Canadians who feel that they've been offended by what they've heard coming out of the White House, and they're saying we have other ways to spend our vacation dollar and we would rather spend that money, in other locations, whether it's in Canada, whether it's Europe, whether it's Asia, South America. We'd rather stay away than go to the U.S.
So let me ask you this then, and you're an insider, so you can help me understand this. I mean, when it comes to contracts or how nimble airlines can be with where they go, if we're not going to, the U.S. destinations, for example, as much as they need, how nimble can WestJet be to sort of replace those flights? And I don't know, can they go to Costa Rica? Can they fly us somewhere where people might be replacing U.S. destinations with elsewhere?
Oh yes, they have. I think you've seen there are new routes that's showing up in the WestJet schedule for the summer. Right now, I think they announced this week that they're starting up new services from Calgary to Sault Ste. Marie, Calgary to North Bay. So I'm sure that they're not done yet in terms of redeploying these assets that were used on the U.S. You'll see more Canadian services being generated by WestJet. The airplanes that they're flying, they've only got 7 Dreamliners that can go internationally. So they've got 180 737s, and those airplanes, in my opinion, will be redeployed across Canada. So be prepared for some interesting Canadian new city pairs being generated by WestJet. All
right, John, thank you very much.
My pleasure, Marcia. Have a great day.
You too. That's John Graddock, aviation expert based in McGill University. Now, in a statement to CBC, a spokesperson for WestJet has said this, quote, "We saw a notable decline in transporter travel demand throughout 2025. As a result, we made timely decisions to modify our network to stay aligned with where Canadians want to go, reducing our full-year transporter flying by close to 10%, with a 15% reduction in what were historically peak travel times for the U.S. We see no indication this trend will change in the foreseeable future. We made further reductions to our transporter network in 2026, including the suspension of service between Winnipeg and Atlanta and Nashville. WestJet will also seasonally suspend flying between Winnipeg and Orlando." So lots of changes. You can read more on our website at cbc.ca/Manitoba. And as John mentioned, we'll see whether or not they replace any of those routes with other destinations, or as he put it, elsewhere outside of the country, or as he put it, to interesting destinations within Canada. Well, speaking of within Canada, we're having a lot of discussion and thoughts this morning across this country about what has been developing in Tumbler, BC. That shooting yesterday, one of the worst and deadliest shootings in decades, the mass shooting in BC's northeast town of Tumbler. So we will hear more about what we know about the investigation. It's just early in BC, of course. It's only 6 a.m. there. So we're going to be hearing more on World Report in just a moment. As we know, 10 people have been left dead. That does include the shooter. So we'll hear the very latest. Right now, I want to mention something coming up after 8 o'clock on our program. We have Olympic Report, and today we have a special addition to that. The journey to get to the games is long, and usually parents of Olympians have the front row seat.
So darn proud of her. It's beyond words, and I have to keep pinching myself and saying, oh my God, she did it. And you know what? I've never, ever had a doubt in my mind that she would be here one day.
That was Heather Tabin, who is in Milan right now to support her daughter, Katie Tabin, who's playing hockey for women and Team Canada. Coming up, she's going to tell us more about what it's like to raise an Olympian. She will join us live. She is there in Milan, as I mentioned, so that'll be fun. And there's also a beautiful story about the number that Katie Tabin wears, and if you don't know it, then stay tuned because we'll share a bit of that with you after 8 as well. 2 minutes to right now. Heather Wells is in with our news headlines.
Good morning. Well, the Progressive Conservative health critic is sounding the alarm after a 6-month-old baby died in hospital. Kathleen Cook is calling for a public inquiry after a third death in 3 months involving a Winnipeg hospital patient whose family says they waited too long for care. Winnipeg's mayor is confident a proposed new bylaw to ban protests in some locations can stand the test of a charter challenge. The city wants to prohibit protests within 100 meters of schools, hospitals, libraries, community centers, and places of worship. Scott Gillingham says such measures are needed in today's world. I'll be back with more on these stories coming up in our next local news at 8:30.
Northbound Lage and East Mint Place, a light standard down. There's backups through there. There's also a yellow local advisory for fog around Dauphin in the Parkland region, so be careful in that area if you are driving as well. 788-3093, minus 16 in Winnipeg. And pardon me, I've been saying Tumbler. It is, of course, Tumbler Ridge in BC, and we'll get the latest on what's happening on World Report next at 8 o'clock.
on Q.
I'm Garvey Bailey, in for Tom Power. After his eldest daughter was born, the musician Aquaculture started asking questions about his own roots and realized he didn't have many answers. That led him to 1783 and Nova Scotia's Black history. He's here to talk about it and his new album, 1783.
Q, this morning at 10:30 in Newfoundland, and on CBC Listen, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Breaking news happens anywhere, anytime.
Police have warned the protesters repeatedly, get back.
CBC News brings the story to you as it happens.
Hundreds of wildfires are burning.
Be the first to know what's going on and what that means for you and for Canadians. CBC News.
This is World Report. Good morning. I'm Marcia Young.
The people of Tumbler Ridge remain in a state of crisis following one of the worst mass shootings in our province's and country's history.
BC Public Safety Minister Nina Krieger responding to the attack in Tumbler Ridge. 10 people in the northern community are dead, including the suspected shooter. Police say the suspect opened fire at the local high school, killing 7 people. 2 others were fatally shot in a nearby home. George Rowe is a local pastor caring for those waiting to hear news of loved ones.
The RCMP and their staff were with the parents trying to explain, but could not release the information as to whether their child had survived or not. And that in itself was absolutely heartbreaking.
Rowe says he has heard the names of victims will be released sometime today. Here's the CBC's Georgie Smythe with more on what we know so far.
And our principal goes throughout the halls and she's saying, people close your doors, lock down, stuff like that.
17-year-old Darian Quist was in a mechanics classroom when a shooter started opening fire in his school in Tumbler Ridge.
So we all barricaded up the doors with some iron tables.
He says he stayed on the phone to his mum until police arrived.
Our CMP got in. We're telling everyone to put their hands up, and we were all escorted out of the building and sent.
Chris Clark from BC RCMP says they found 6 people dead inside the school.
The scene was very dramatic, and there were multiple victims that are still being cared for.
25 people were injured, some critically. 1 person died on their way to hospital. Then investigators found another crime scene.
We have the school, and then we have found 2 other persons deceased at a residence in Tumbler.
Police were light on details of the identity of the suspect, but earlier alerts described them as a woman in a dress with brown hair. They say details of the weapon used or motives may come in time. What's for certain now is the agony being felt by families in a quiet and peaceful BC town. Here's Premier David Eby.
Wrap the people of Tumbler Ridge, wrap these families with love. This is something that will reverberate for years to come.
The Premier adding, this is the kind of thing that happens in other places and not close to home. Georgie Smythe, CBC News, Vancouver.
Politicians across the country are reacting to the Tumbler Ridge shootings. Janice McGregor is tracking the outpouring of support from our parliamentary bureau. And Janice, what are we hearing from the Prime Minister?
Mark Carney had been expected to make a major announcement before heading to Germany to participate in the annual Munich Security Conference. Those travel plans are postponed now in the wake of these shootings. In a statement overnight, Carney said he was devastated. He extended his prayers and deepest condolences and expressed gratitude for the courage and selflessness of the first responders who risked their lives at the scene. Federal officials, the Prime Minister said, will be supporting the community as best they can. Public Safety Minister Gary Anand Sangari, who's coordinating that response, called the pain of this event unimaginable. He thanked the local RCMP for their swift action. And the minister said the violence has rocked the nation, stolen the sense of safety that students deserve when they go to school each day. The MP that represents Tumbler Ridge, Conservative Bob Zimmer, told CBC News last evening he's heading home to be with his community.
Well, as a father of 4 children, I can only imagine parents, possibly have lost their children and lost family members, and it's absolutely tragic. What can you say?
How are other leaders reacting?
Opposition leader Pierre Poilievre posting that he was devastated to hear of the murdered and injured in this senseless act of violence. He said he was offering his prayers for the entire community grieving this loss. And we've seen similar expressions of sympathy, support, solidarity offered by other MPs overnight, as well as provincial leaders, including neighbouring Premier Danielle Smith, who said she can only imagine the devastation that the community is feeling.
Thanks, Janice.
You're welcome.
The CBC's Janice McGregor in Ottawa. The U.S. Federal Aviation Administration says the airspace over El Paso International Airport is no longer closed. There is no threat to commercial aviation, and all flights will resume as normal. Earlier this morning, it announced all incoming and outgoing flights would be halted for special security reasons. It says a drone from a Mexican cartel broached the airspace. Israel's prime minister will meet with U.S. President Donald Trump later today. The timing of Benjamin Netanyahu's visit is no coincidence. The U.S. and Iran are in negotiations over Iran's nuclear program. The U.S. wants it to end. Trump is weighing diplomatic and military responses, and Netanyahu will press his agenda. Willie Lowry is in Washington. And Willie, where do negotiations currently sit between the U.S. and Iran?
At a standstill, representatives from both countries met last week in Oman for what both sides described as positive talks, but no breakthroughs were made. U.S. President Donald Trump's main demand is that Iran never develop a nuclear weapon. But the administration also wants Tehran to end its ballistic missile program and its support of proxies, including Hamas in Gaza, Hezbollah in Lebanon, and the Houthis in Yemen. Iran says it won't discuss its missile program. That's something that will likely be front of mind for Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu when he meets with Trump at the White House later today.
What is Netanyahu's message for Trump on Iran?
So this will be Netanyahu's 7th meeting with Trump since last January and his 6th trip to the U.S. He is expected to press Trump on keeping the talks with Iran as broad as possible, making sure that the U.S. keeps its focus not just on the country's nuclear program, but also those ballistic missiles. In June, Israel and the U.S. went after Iran's nuclear facilities, prompting a 12-day war in which Iran launched hundreds of ballistic missiles and drones at Israel. Now, the U.S. is expected to continue talks with Iran, though a date has yet to be set for the next round. Meanwhile, Trump told the news site Axios that he is mulling sending a second aircraft carrier to the region as tensions continue to mount.
Thank you, Willie.
My pleasure.
The CBC's Willie Lowry in Washington. Officials say one person was detained for questioning, then released in the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie. She's the 84-year-old mother of American television anchor Savannah Guthrie. Sheriff's deputies in Arizona detained someone last night during a traffic stop south of Tucson. This delivery driver spoke to local media. He says he was the person who was questioned.
I hope they get the suspect, because I'm not it.
And did you have any idea?
No.
This was about
No.
him? And do you know who Nancy Guthrie is?
No. That's the problem. No, I don't know anything.
Investigators also searched a property. Nancy Guthrie was reported missing by her family on February 1st. Since then, there have been multiple alleged demands for ransom. Just yesterday, the FBI released door camera video of a masked person outside Guthrie's home. The small Nunavut community of Akviat will host Canada's first Inuit-led university. CBC News has learned the hamlet was chosen from a list of more than 50 locations. As Olivia Stefanovich reports, the new university could change lives across the Inuit homeland.
It kind of lost for words right now. But
it's been a hard secret for Akviat Mayor Joe Savikateg Jr. to keep. His small Nunavut community will host the main campus of the new Inuit Nunangat University, giving young people the option of pursuing their post-secondary university education within their homeland.
It will make a whole lot of difference, in my opinion, in our opinion, because currently people move far away from home to go to southern Canada.
The board of directors for the Inuit Teparik Kanatami, the national organization representing Inuit, chose Akviat in part because of the community's alignment with the university's vision for a culturally rich environment. Most people in the hamlet of about 3,000 people speak Inuktitut.
We want to build successful human beings.
ITK President Nitan Obed says the focus of the university will not only be on academics, but the development of students overall.
We want to produce people who not only know who they are and have a firm grounding in their culture and language, but also how they can help.
An event announcing ACFIED as the main campus will be made at Rideau Hall later today. Governor General Mary Simon, who is Inuk, has long advocated for an Inuit-led university, and now it's about to become a reality. Olivia Stefanovic, CBC News, Ottawa.
For more on our top story, the mass shooting in Tumbler Ridge, go to cbcnews.ca. It's on our main page. That is World Report. I'm Marcia Young.
Well, good morning from Winnipeg. I'm Marcy Marcusa. This is Information Radio, and we are live downtown in our CBC studios on 89.3 FM, 990 AM on the app and YouTube. Thanks for being with us. It is minus 16 calm out there, and we're going to be way above normal again today in southern Manitoba, so another beautiful day here. Well, imagine raising an Olympian. Not everybody can say that they have that experience, but my guest this half hour sure can. We're going to talk to Katie Tabin's mom, who has made her way to Italy to watch her daughter play on Team Canada women's hockey team. Katie Tabin is a first-time Olympian, so we're going to hear more about her journey to get there and celebrate her as she continues on her dream in the Olympic Games. In addition, we're going to hear a bit of a lovely story and a heartfelt and in some ways heart-wrenching story as well about why Katie wears the number that she does in hockey. So you might not know this one. Stay tuned. Right now, let's go to Heather Wells. Heather is here with our news headlines on your Wednesday morning here, February 11th. What's developing, Heather?
Well, a young family says they have lost faith in the system after their 6-month-old baby died last month in a Winnipeg hospital. Lou 10 says his little boy Luca had a hole in his esophagus. He says staff at Winnipeg's Children's Hospital waited too long to transfer Luca to surgery. A Manitoba musician now living in Nashville is lamenting the loss of WestJet's direct flights from Winnipeg. Songwriter Leanne Peterson visits Winnipeg as often as she can. Her family also visits her in Nashville using that nonstop service. WestJet is also suspending direct service between Winnipeg and Atlanta. The airline says it's because fewer people are traveling to the U.S. I'll be back with more Manitoba news coming up at 8:30.
All right. Thanks, Seth.
Thanks.
Let's go to weather now with Abby.
Yeah, Marcy, we are looking at foggy conditions in the southwest corner of the province this morning, impacting the Dauphin region. Hence, that yellow fog advisory we have causing near zero visibility across the region. But for Winnipeg, we are at minus 16 at this time. Just a few clouds. Temperatures will hover near minus 14 this morning before we climb to a mainly sunny high of minus 4. Which is a mild breeze picking up later in the day. The southern regions, we're seeing minus 7s to minus 17, and we're seeing highs around 0 to minus 5 later in the day. In the Churchill region, we're looking at those freezing conditions still around minus 30 to start, and wind chill near minus 43.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Big change up there. Corey.
Northbound Lage at East Mint Place, the light standard has been knocked down in a collision, and emergency crews are on scene, but that means the lights are totally out there. So as you can imagine, northbound Lage Mortier, very, very backed up. It's also actually foggy in that area as well. Traffic Management Center posted a picture. It's just very foggy in that part of the city too. So look out. You might want to avoid that if you can, because it'll be very slow going northbound Lage at East Mint Place, right outside the Mint there. If you do see anything else though going on, you can give me a call on the CBC commuter line. That number 204-788-3093.
Well, behind every Olympian are the people who believe in them and love them from when they're wee. And for Manitoba-born hockey player Katie Tabin, that person is her mom. She is Katie playing for Canadian women's hockey team. Heather Tabin flew out to Milan from Winnipeg, and she is there supporting her daughter's very first Olympic Games. Win or lose, she's been there every step of the way, and it's afternoon where she is, but she's joining us now. Hi there.
Hi, how are you? Thanks for having me.
I'm well. I love that you're wearing the hockey jersey. Love that. Got the number on your sleeve for your daughter. What's it like watching your daughter perform at this level?
It's very exciting, emotional. Yeah, it's just, it's a dream come true for her. It's a dream come true for our family.
Yeah, we're going to roll some pictures here. So, because you were kind enough to share some photos with us. So we've got her like a little Katie in her hockey stuff. How young was she when you really got serious about hockey, when you thought, oh, she has something to, she's got this?
Well, that's her first learn to skate. The picture before was her first hockey team that she played for in Oakbank. That one there. So that was, I guess it's called Squirts at that time. So it was an all boys team. There was really no girls hockey in Oakbank at that time. So that I think is like 2003 possibly.
Yeah. So you knew when she was really little, that she had some talent on the ice, I guess, eh?
Yeah. Well, as she started playing and once she got into hitting with the boys, I was a little nervous at first, but she could hold her own against them and played very well. Then we decided she kept getting invited to, of course, all these spring teams that people get invited to, and we could just see her drive and determination, and she just really wanted to do this. So we moved from Oakbank to Winnipeg, and then Katie attended Balmoral Hall, where she played in the hockey program there, and just kept excelling and excelling. And then next thing we know, she's got all of these full ride scholarships. So that was really exciting. She ended up going to Quinnipiac University in Connecticut, and it's just been a whirlwind since then. And now we've got the Women's Hockey League, the PWHL. Prior to that, she was in the PHF. There was kind of two separate leagues. Wasn't really working. Girls weren't getting paid very much. So the PWHL came along. She threw her name in, and here we are now at Team Canada Olympics.
It's so amazing. Those journeys, I love the journeys because I now know we're going to have a future where young girls won't have to play with the boys. We're still not there yet. You're talking about, Katie back in the day. Of course, for myself, like I remember girls that would be playing ringette and want to play hockey and not even have a path, right, in Manitoba. Yeah. So I just love watching all the women now at the Olympics. How tough was yesterday? I know you were at that game.
It was tough, but it's one game.
Yep.
I'm confident that they're going to bounce back. Of course, I'm so excited when my daughter's on the ice. No, I think it was tough. We need to get out there a little more hungry, I guess.
Yeah.
Speaking for the person who never's played hockey.
You and me both. For people that might not know what we're talking about, Team Canada women's team at the Olympic Games yesterday playing the U.S. Big game. First of all, Marie-Philippe Poulin, captain, not in. She's injured right now, although hopefully she's going to be back for games. But they did suffer a devastating loss. They lost 5-0. Were shut out by the States. Do you get to speak to Katie? Like, did you get to talk to her after the game? Or what was the accessibility to the athletes like? How's she doing?
She's doing good. She's always been so positive, which is awesome. She just, it's one game, it's done, move on, focus on the next game. She's always been pretty focused and not letting things out of her control bother her. So, but you do get to see the athletes after the game. We didn't yesterday just because it got pretty late. Like their games had been at like 9 o'clock at night here. So
Okay.
by the time the game plays and you get on the metro and get home, you're getting home at like 2 a.m., 2:30.
Yeah, it's a
Sort of
process.
things. Yeah, and they're tired too.
Yeah.
So, but we have seen her in between. We've grabbed a coffee. We're very close where we're staying to Olympic Village. So we've got to grab coffee with her and stuff, which is nice.
I must ask you about the moment that you found out your daughter was going to the Olympics from your perspective, because this is obviously exciting, her first time going to the games. But where were you when you found out?
So I was working. I was on a Teams call facilitating a meeting. And I saw my phone ring and saw that it was Katie FaceTiming me. And I just looked at the screen and said, I have a family emergency. And I just...
Facilitate yourselves, people.
Yeah. So then Katie told me, and I was just like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And just screaming and, you know, every emotion, and so proud and overwhelmed. And yeah, so I was at home. It was just awesome.
You're wearing number 4, obviously, on your jersey right now for Team Canada. Katie usually wears number 9. And, tell me a little bit about who she honors by wearing number 9 for people that might not know the story here. And you're actually traveling with someone right now that's connected to this.
Yeah. So Katie's best friend, Jordan Reimer, was killed by a drunk driver on May 1st in 2022. That was really heartbreaking for all of us. She was acting as a designated driver at the time, and it was, just devastating. Katie's at home. We find out that her family calls. We find out that it was Jordan, and Katie and the rest of us pretty much fall apart. She decided she was going to go for it in hockey after that, because she took some breaks in between, and just because of the other leagues not getting really paid, do I stop hockey? Do I start hockey back up? And when Jordan passed, she just really wanted to get away from everything, I think, and decided to go back and play hockey.
So she had been on the brink of, quitting even twice, and then kind of went forward after she lost her friend. And she and her friend were both, they played hockey together. They understand.
Yes,
they had numbers.
So she was Jordan was number 9 and Katie was number 8 when they played in Winnipeg together in minor hockey. And, Katie was, like I said, pretty broken. So when she got the call to go play, she just had one request, and that was, can I wear number 9? And she wanted to honor Jordan, which is just awesome. And she says that, she has her and she knows she's looking over her at every game.
I love that. It speaks volumes about how you raised her and about your daughter. You're traveling with Jordan's mom.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes. Karen is with us. She's their whole family knows the impact that this had, not only on them, but on Katie. And they're very, thankful that Katie's carrying on Jordan's memory. So as soon as we found out, Karen said, I'm coming. And it was like, yes. So Katie is very happy that she's here.
Yeah.
And we know Jordan's with us 100%.
So many beautiful layers to this Manitoba story. Before you go this morning, Heather, and watch more hockey, there's more games to come. Got to bounce back after yesterday. What's your message to your daughter as she continues on the Olympic journey?
Just keep pushing forward, keep doing what you do, because she's got this.
Enjoy. Enjoy all the wonderful things in Italy, including the games. Thank you so much for all the time here and talking to us here at home.
Okay, thanks for having me.
Take
Bye.
care. That is Heather Tabin. She's the mother of Manitoba Olympian Katie Tabin, who's experiencing her first Olympic Games with Canada's women's hockey team.
The fire hose of news from America can feel like a lot these days.
If you're trying to figure out what to make of it all, we got you.
I'm Katie Simpson.
And I'm Paul Hunter. We're correspondents here in Washington.
Working just around the corner from where much of the action is taking place.
2 blocks from the White House.
And that's the name of our new podcast.
For top-notch analysis of U.S. politics from a Canadian perspective, find 2 blocks from the White House on CBC Listen and wherever you get your podcasts.
Time right now is 8:23. It's Wednesday morning, and Saturday's Valentine's Day. We've got this great prize pack, and it is built for a couple. 2 hats, 2 mugs, really 2 of everything, all CBC. Really lovely. All we asked you to do to enter is before 10 o'clock tomorrow, give us a call. So you've still got time, 788-3205. We are listening for your meet cute stories.
Good morning. My name is Naomi. I met my husband, Don, when we were working at Bread and Circus's bakery. I had been working there for a number of years, and he was brought on as a manager. And they called a staff meeting, and I saw this cute fellow. And I also thought, I hope that he doesn't think that he's going to tell me what to do. And, well, I would say in our relationship, we've been together now for 24 years, and there's a mutual kind of bossing around, but there's also so much love, so much love. So thankful for our meet cute at Bread and Circuses.
Love that. You're entered to win the prize pack. It's that easy. Tell us your meet cute, 788-3205. Contest closes tomorrow at 10. We'll announce the winner on Friday, and someone's going to walk away with some pretty cute swag for Valentine's Day to wear with their partner. It is right now in Winnipeg coming up to 8:25 a.m. and right now it is minus 16 in the city. And we have an issue, Lage and East Mint Place. Next, Olympic report.
Good morning, and this is your Olympic Games report. I'm Scott Reguer. It is day 5 in Milano Cortina with a couple of the game's marquee events getting underway, those being men's hockey and men's curling. And there's also figure skating, where Canada has a good shot at its first medal in the sport since 2018.
152.15. Caitlin Osman will win a medal.
The sound of Caitlin Osman winning bronze in women's singles in Pyeongchang. Since then, Canadians have come up dry in this sport. That could change today when medals are awarded in the ice dance competition. Piper Gillies and Paul Poirier are 4-time World Championship medalists in the event. Among others, they'll have to hold off Britain's Lila Fear and Lewis Gibson, who sit close behind the Canadians in 4th place. That's in part because a British judge curiously scored the Canadians 6th and the British team 2nd in the opening round of the competition. The final round, the free dance, goes at 11:30 Mountain Time, 10:30 Pacific this morning. So it's been a long wait for a Canadian figure skating medal, and it's been just as long since the country reached the podium in men's hockey.
One more stop and another by Poland, and Team Canada are going to climb onto the Olympic podium.
Canada's bronze in 2018 was the country's last of any color, for good reason. The NHL, concerned over things like insurance, travel costs, and commercial licensing rights, pulled its players from those games. But now they're back, with Connor McDavid and company facing Czechia in their opening game tomorrow. In the meantime, it's Slovakia, Finland, and Sweden versus Italy in the first games today. Covering it all will be CBC Olympic hockey commentator Matt Cullen, who joins me now. Matt, fans have been clamoring for best-on-best hockey for some time now. What are you expecting?
This, Scott, has to be one of the most anticipated moments for a hockey fan in those 12 years. Calls have been growing year over year to have a best-on-best tournament, and we got a small taste of it, an appetizer, we can call it, at the Four Nations Face-Off, which, as you remember, Canada won in overtime on a Connor McDavid goal against the United States. It's a 12-team tournament. Canada and the USA certainly are the favorites, but if you look at the Czechs, the Swedes, the Finns, they're also right there. But the big takeaway is that the best players in the men's game are back at the Olympics, and it's a long time coming.
Thanks so much, Matt.
Thank you.
CBC Olympic hockey commentator Matt Cullen.
Go to the top. Right.
Men's speed skating gets underway today in Milano, and the guy everyone in the sport is talking about is 21-year-old Wisconsin native Jordan Stolz. He races in the 1,000 meters today and is favored in a few more because no one's beaten him all year. CBC host and speed skating analyst Anastasia Busis joins me now. And Anastasia, what comes to mind when I say Jordan Stolz?
Perhaps the greatest that there ever has been. And I know that's a big statement, Scott, because that really, that title is owned by Eric Heiden, who won 5 gold medals in 1980. But he is 20 years ahead of the time. Everyone is studying this kid like a textbook because his technique is just clinical. And I really think, we saw brilliance from a young gun in Summer McIntosh. I think that a young gun by the name of Jordan Stolz is going to do similar things. I think regardless of where he is, if he's on the podium, if he's off the podium, his name will be in the headline. He is that good.
I think of Summer McIntosh in the pool, and I think about her physiology. She's built to succeed at the highest possible level. For people that don't know about Jordan Stolz, is it just about the anatomy, or is it mentally, or what is the key to his success?
He's got sprinter, absolute fast twitch muscles, and yet he also, if needed, can skate a 10,000 meter. So physiologically, he's very, very gifted. Technically, he is essentially perfect, and mentally, he has never cracked under the pressure.
Wow. Mm-hmm. The next Eric Heiden, maybe.
I think he certainly can do it, and he is aware of those comparisons, and he is not backing down from that.
We shall see. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Scott.
CBC host and speed skating analyst Anastasia Busis. And we'll end on this note. This result just in. Saskatoon's Maya Schwinghammer finishes just off the podium in 5th place in women's moguls. American Elizabeth Lemley took the gold. That is your Olympic report this hour. I'm Scott Regier.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg at 8:30. It's minus 16. It feels a little chilly out there, but we are warming up under the sun today and a southerly breeze, a high this afternoon of minus 4.
The people of Tumbler Ridge remain in a state of crisis following one of the worst mass shootings in our province's and country's history.
BC's Public Safety Minister Nina Krieger responding to the attack in Tumbler Ridge. 10 people in that northeast town are dead, including the suspected shooter. Police say the suspect opened fire at the local high school, killing 7 people. 2 others were fatally shot in a nearby home. George Rowe is a local pastor caring for those waiting to hear news of their loved ones.
The RCMP and their staff were with the parents trying to explain, but could not release the information as to whether their child had survived or not. And that in itself was absolutely heartbreaking.
Rowe says he has heard the names of victims will be released sometime today. Now, condolences are coming in from around the world. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer, French President Emmanuel Macron, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi, and Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese have all offered their sympathies to the victims and families. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says such tragedy should never happen anywhere. You can stay in step with this developing story right here on CBC Radio 1. You can also find more at cbcnews.ca. The Progressive Conservative health critic is sounding the alarm after a 6-month-old baby died in hospital. Kathleen Cook is calling for a public inquiry. This after a 3rd death in 3 months involving a Winnipeg hospital patient whose family says they waited too long for care. The latest death was Luca 10. The little boy died last month after a hole was found in his esophagus. The province has committed to a critical incident review, but Cook says that is an internal process, and Manitobans need a public review of all these recent deaths.
That's why we need a public inquiry. I know that it will take time, but when there's this many deaths in such a short period of time, Those families want answers about what happened to their loved ones, and Manitobans want answers about what's going on with the system as a whole.
In this most recent case, health officials told Luca's family the little boy received appropriate care. A tear in the esophagus often heals itself, but this time it became life-threatening. The boy's father, Lou Ten, says hospital staff should have noticed his son's deteriorating health earlier. Winnipeg's mayor says the city's legal team has carefully considered the Charter of Rights and Freedoms in proposing a new bylaw to limit protests. The city wants to prohibit protests within 100 meters of schools, hospitals, libraries, community centers, and places of worship. Scott Gillingham says such measures are needed in today's world.
There's a way for all of us, I think, to kind of coexist, allowing people to maintain their right to rally and to protest. But at the same time, I think it's very reasonable that you shouldn't be subjected to anything that people may feel would be intimidating.
Gillingham says Ottawa and the province are also looking at protest limits. The mayor's inner circle will discuss the proposal next week. Winnipeg is losing some direct flights to U.S. destinations. WestJet is suspending service to Nashville and Atlanta amid a decline in transborder travel. The airline announced direct flights to Atlanta in 2023 and direct to Nashville in 2024. This change comes amid ongoing economic and political tensions between Canada and the U.S. Carrie Lee Falloon is the Director of Communications at Winnipeg's Richardson International. She says they're continuing to see a reduction in people traveling south of the border.
We're working really closely with our airline partners to navigate the economic conditions, and we are seeing that airlines are investing in other routes, not to the U.S., that passengers are very interested in.
Falloon points to flights from Winnipeg to Costa Rica and the addition of a direct flight from Winnipeg to Iceland starting in July. An expansion at a Steinbach hospital is now complete. Bethesda Regional Health Centre now has new palliative care beds, a lab, and 3 new operating theatres. Delbert Duick lives in Steinbach and was visiting his mom at the hospital. He says this addition is needed, but worries there isn't enough space if the facility needs to expand further in the future.
The city's growing so fast, and with all the other communities growing so fast as well, you have so many people coming in. There's even been Winnipeg people coming to this hospital.
The $64 million project took 31 months to complete. Patients are expected to start receiving care in the new space in March. You can find more news updated throughout the day. All you have to do is head to cbc.ca/Manitoba.
Thanks, Heather.
Thank you.
Heather Wells in our news department, as well as Joni Nicolo and Megan Catcherson. Our live team in Studio 15, Corey Funk, Gabby Adiemi, and Darren Marash. Our producers, Nellie Gonzalez and Leif Larson, and the associate producers with work in today's program, Marshall Hodgins and Sophia Peralta-Barone. Thank you, everyone, for your work. And a final look at the commute. Corey.
Lajemodiere and Eastman Place, a collision that's knocked out the light standard, and that has the lights completely out. Big backups, foggy in the area as well, so you may want to avoid that if you can.
All right, Abby.
A mix of sun and clouds with milder air moving to the south, though the fog advisory still causing zero visibility near the Dauphin region and even a lot of southern regions this morning. Winnipeg, we will be around this minus 16, 17 for this morning. We warm up to minus 4 later.
All right, thanks, Abby.
Thank you.
The Current is coming up next right here on CBC, and of course throughout the day, the whole day, we will be hearing more about what is happening in Tumbler Ridge. I mistakenly earlier said they're 2 hours ahead of us. That actual community, because of where it's located in BC, is 1 hour ahead of us. So it's just about 7:30 right now. Stay with us on CBC through the day, and next local programming between noon and 1 on Radio Noon, and then up to speed between 3 and 6. Take care, be well. I'm Marcy Marcusa. You've been on Information Radio, 89.3 FM, 990 AM on that app and YouTube. See you tomorrow.